What's up? What's up? What's up? How's everybody feeling today? Let's get to everybody's breaking issues real quick. I think it's very funny how so many people have yet to figure out what's going on in the world. Hmm. Oh, man. A little tired, but we're going to get through it.
We'd like to kind of move on and fall into another groove out there, y'all. We'd like to do this for all the young ladies in the house out there. All right. Yeah. A tune called While I'm Alone.
How y'all doing out there? Who's in the chat today? Woo!
Baby, baby, baby.
The Baltimore Blockbuster. Come on, sing with me, people. It's gonna be a good conversation.
Do you love me, baby? Then why you wanna go leave me alone?
Yeah. Talk to me, girl.
My love, baby, sugar, my love.
Sing it, Frankie. Come on, sing it, Frankie. We about to get deep in this shit. How y'all doing? Sam, I am. What's up? Ox Hermes. Blood boiling. Yeah. Hey. Top of the morning, cognacs and all.
La 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 da da.
Hey. Kill it, Frankie.
I guess the weekend's over now. You have to make your way. Had a ball of dynamite right from the first day. Tell me that you're coming just as soon as you get home. To pacify my heart while I'm alone. I don't like being alone.
No, we don't.
Things we did this time of love, we never done before. Made some changes in my head, I don't feel the same no more. Tell me it's not right, this feeling that you show. To comfort me, my love, while I'm alone. I don't like it alone. Just think that time you left before we met, burning up inside. Something I can see, no, not for my foolish pride. Please remember all the time when I'm home. The Passing from my heart, oh, no. I don't gotta get along. Hey, can't stop.
Yes. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, yes. It is me, everybody's favorite sergeant and active ship commander, Charles L. Faulkner Jr. The L is for lethal than a motherfucker. Whew! Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Let's get into it. Or intuitive, at least. Snarl. Snarl, snarl, snarl. Ah, we're going to talk about something we haven't talked about in a while. Because, apparently in the Black Manosphere, all we talk about is the gynocracy. Ooh. Say it again. Gynocracy. Yes, yes. We're talking about the gynocracy. And a lot of brothers and sisters don't understand this, what I'm about to go into. Prepare yourselves because it's going to be some heavy shit, see? And, yeah, it's going to be one hell of a ride. You might enjoy the son of our. Woo! All-Star G. Two trends. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, folks. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, man. Gotta grab some ice and some cola. Because apparently, motherfuckers want to go toe-to-toe with the Ayatollah. I told you. Oh, god damn. Fuck. Yeah, sure. We're gonna get it a nitty-gritty. It's gonna get all times of fun. All times of fun. Now, you don't mind if I read a few articles that I picked up? Let's read. Oh man, I got so many news articles. Jesus Christ. Haven't done this type of research in a while. Woo! Let me open up the blinds so I can get a little bit of light. But all this lovely darkness around us. That way, I don't read shit and sound all illiterate to you folks. Hmm. Israel and Hamas at war after surprise attack from Gaza Strip. Hmm. At the time of this, which was a few days ago, oh man, this is from October 7th, which was Saturday. Israel and Hamas are once again at war with after the Palestinian militant group launched a large aerial ground operation from the blockade Gaza Strip, its biggest attack in years. Sirens sounded across Israel as far north as the contested city of Jerusalem from about 7 a.m. on Saturday, after volleys of what Hamas claimed were 5,000 rockets launched from the blockade enclave. Hmm. Interesting, folks. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, man. How many people are talking about this subject in the Black Manosphere? A ground infiltration of Hamas gunmen into Israeli towns and villages in the province. Unpredictable developments in the 16 years since the IDF says at this point 7 villages and towns were under Hamas control. Wow. 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 Let me read that again because I know YouTube probably cut me off. In response to the attacks, which appear to have caught the Israeli security forces by surprise, Israel has declared a state of war. Our enemy will pay the price, the type which it has never known, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in a televised statement. We are at war and we will win it. Unconfirmed initial reports and graphic pictures and videos appeared to show the gunmen had opened fire in the border towns of Sderot, killing several Israeli civilians and soldiers. Gotta love your conflicts, man. I'm being sarcastic, by the way. It has been confirmed that an elderly woman died in a rocket attack and that another 4 people in Bedouin villages in Israel's south were killed by rocket fire. 100 Israelis have been confirmed dead so far and 908 injured, which they're probably they probably increased since this has been reported. At least 198 Palestinians were reported killed in Gaza in retaliatory airstrikes beginning on Saturday afternoon. 5 Hamas militants were reported killed inside Israel. An unknown number of Israelis have been taken captured by fighters with unrevealed social media footage. Unverified social media footage. Elderly people and young women with their hands tied inside Gaza. The IDF later confirmed both civilian and military hostages have been taken to Gaza but not give details. In a statement, Mohammed Diaf, Hamas military commander in Gaza, announced the start of the new operation to free Jerusalem sensitive Al Qozik Mosque compound, which has had increased in numbers of Jewish visitors in the past few weeks owing to the Jewish high holidays. He said this is only the first stage of Hamas' renewed efforts against Israel. We warned the enemy not to continue their aggression against the El Quds Mosque. The age of the enemy's aggression without a response is over. I call on Palestinians everywhere in the West Bank and within the Green Line, Israeli territory, to launch an attack without restraint. Go to all the streets. I call on Muslims everywhere to launch an attack, he said. Hmm. Islamic jihadists, another faction in Gaza, said in a statement on Telegram hours later that they had joined in the fighting. There are fears of regional conflagration that should the violence spread to the occupied West Bank, which is partially locked down, or to the northern front with the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah, or the intracommunal violence break out on the streets of Israel, as seen in 2021. Gonna get Israel. Both Hezbollah and its backers in Iran issued a statement of support for Hamas operations. The Israeli military said in a statement, a number of terrorists have infiltrated Israeli territory from the Gaza Strip, according to their residents in the area surrounding the Strip. The Strip has been told to stay in their homes. The IDF will defend Israeli civilians, and Hamas terrorist organization will pay heavily a price for its action. It said the reservist force will be mobilized. Inside the strip on Saturday, civilians reported significant movement of armed factions as people brace for a major escalation. Maud Hawid, a 31-year-old from the Gaza City, I was helping my children go to school and all of a sudden explosions happened. My children were freaked out. I told them to stay at home and not go to school. We are surprised and worried about what's next, wondering when and how long will it last. Like, share, subscribe, donate to the channel. I'm one of the few places you're going to get this from, so hopefully you all appreciate it. Um, Saturday's dramatic developments are the most serious flare ups in the volatile region since Israel and Hamas fought a 10-day battle in 2021, and so far appear to be on a more dangerous scale. No shit. Shaki Shahid, 70, from Israeli town of Naviv Hasharah. We are locked down in the security room and don't know what's happening outside. We can hear explosions. We are nervous and alert. It is clear this will lead to war in Gaza. Since the Islamic group seized control of the Strip, which is about 25 miles long between 3.7 to 7.5 miles wide in 2007. There have been 4 wars since, and several smaller, confrontations against the area's rulers, and its active factions have excavated a devastating toll on Gaza's 2.3 million residents. People in Gaza also have next to no freedom of movement. Healthcare, electricity, sanitation, and other crucial infrastructures have all been collapsed since Israel and Egypt imposed blockades after Hamas takeover. What's up, electrician? Uncle Doobie? I want everybody to hold their most important questions till the end after I get through the articles, and I'll answer anything everybody wants to post. The violence followed the most deadly period in Jerusalem and the occupied West Bank in 20 years and spread fears of a new infiltration or Palestinian uprising. Clashes between Palestinian settlers and the IDF forces were also reported within the West Bank and Jerusalem on Saturday. Israel's army relies heavily on reservists, thousands of whom have pledged to stop reporting for duty in protest against a judicial overhaul being pushed by Netanyahu far right wing allies. On Saturday, however, political differences were put aside as reservists scrambled to the army bases. Woo! Here's another article. Netanyahu says Israel's at war. Let me see if I'm going to give you. Let me see. I could give y'all something because some of them do run into each other saying the same shit. I don't want to give y'all the same shit. Okay, I'll read this part of it. The world reacts amid the unprecedented assault. United States President Joe Biden and his administration supports Israel's security is rock solid and unwavering. When I spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu this morning, I told him the United States stands with you, the people of Israel, in the face of these terroristic assaults. Israel has the right to defend itself and its people, full stop, he said at the White House. Stephanie Helowitz, the top American diplomat in Israel, wrote on social media, I condemn and incriminate rocket fire by Hamas terrorists against Israeli citizens. I am in contact with Israeli officials and fully support Israel's right to defend itself from such terroristic attacks. In Turkey, the president, Recep Tayyip, called for parties involved to act with restraint in light of events in Israel this morning and to stay away from impulsive steps that will escalate tensions, while Egypt's foreign minister, I'm sorry if I butcher these names, Sameh Shoki, said he is in intense communication with international officials to stop the ongoing escalation. Many European leaders have taken to social media to denounce the violence. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said on X, formerly known as Twitter, that she is unequivocally condemned the violence. It is terrorism in its most despicable form. Israel has the right to defend itself against such heinous acts. French President Emmanuel Macron expressed his full solidarity with the victims, while German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said Germany condemns these Hamas attacks and stands with Israel. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. Shout out to Aqua Dragon for the $10 holler, bro. Let's see what other let's see what other articles we could pick up. Here's an interesting one. How will America respond to the attacks against Israel? With thousands of casualties resulting from rockets being fired from the Gaza Strip to Israel by Hamas militants, the United States is crafting a response, what President Joe Biden termed the appalling Hamas terrorist attacks in Israel. Biden delivered an address Saturday afternoon condemning the unconsequential actions by Hamas as the United States reactions continue to unfold to the attack, which coincide with the 50th anniversary of Yom Kippur War. Biden administration responds. The White House condemns the attacks on Saturday. In the moment of tragedy, I want to say to Hamas and to the world and to terrorists everywhere that the United States stands with Israel. We will not ever fail to have their back, Biden said from the White House Saturday afternoon. The president added that Israel has the right to defend itself and its people, full stop. And his administration's support for Israel is rock solid. Earlier Saturday, Biden confirmed in a written statement that he's spoken with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The United States unequivocally condemns this appalling assault against Israel by Hamas, obviously. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken echoed the president's statement, saying that the United States unequivocally condemned the appalling attacks. We stand in solidarity with the government and people of Israel and extend our condolences for the Israeli lives lost in the attacks. We will remain in close contact with our Israeli partners. The United States supports Israel's right to defend itself, he added. Pentagon Press Secretary Brigadier General Pat Ryder confirmed that the Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has spoken with Israel's Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant to convey his condolences for the victims of this appalling and unheard terrorist attack by Hamas. Biden takes domestic political fire. I'm pretty sure that we all get the gist of this, but I think what the next one I'm going to read is going to be very interesting. The next part, anyway. Republican presidential candidates Saturday morning were quick to blame Biden's administration for the attack on Israel. Specifically, they point the fact that last month the U.S. agreed to unfreeze $6 billion in Iranian funds as part of a prisoner exchange. I say to you with a heavy heart, this is what happens when you have a president like Joe Biden who spent the last 2.5 years projecting weakness on the world stage for and from a disastrous withdrawal in Afghanistan to Qatar into mullahs in Iran for the last 2.5 years begging them to get back the Iran nuclear deal, former Vice President Mike Pence in Iowa. First, I want to say to everybody today, America stands with Israel and against terrorist attacks being perpetrated by Hamas, who is backed by Iran and unfortunately funded by this American president with what he's done to Iran. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said in a campaign in Iowa, it's a disgrace. Hmm. Asked how he thought Biden's administration should respond to the attacks, DeSantis first asked reporters whether Biden had made a statement yet on what happened. When the group responded yes, the governor said Biden needs to speak. Biden had not delivered remarks from the White House. Politics is a politrix, isn't it? This is the time for moral clarity. This is the time for the President of the United States to say unequivocally, we stand with the people of Israel. Oh my God, how many times did he say that? We stand with Prime Minister Netanyahu. I know Biden doesn't get along with, and you know him and Biden knew each other for 40 years, so they have an interesting relationship, by the way, if you didn't know. And doesn't always get along with and cannot say terrorists raining down rockets on your civilian population going into these communities and killing people and hand to hand situations. This is totally unacceptable. And so we've got to be very clear on that Americans need to make sure that he's doing the moral clarity. White House Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates called the claim that Biden funded the attack is a shameful lie in every respect. Not a cent has been spent. They won't go to the Iranian government. They can only be used in verifiable, profitable humanitarian needs like food and medicine. Is this an intelligence failure? Before I read this, I'm going to tell you, yes, it is. Sorry, you can't sleep at the wheel with shit like this. Sorry. You may not like what I'm going to say. It may seem harsh, but sorry. Give me 1 second. Now I'm back. An intelligence failure. There have been many indicators that the intelligence should have picked up on an attack that would have happened in Israel. According to Mike Mallory, former deputy and assistant secretary for the defense of the Middle East and retired CIA paramilitary officer, retired U.S. Marine, and an ABC News national security and defense analyst, it was the start date of a similar attack in 1973 that started the Yom Kippur War. Are there like are there were likely indicators of the buildup of munitions and the preparations of the assault force, and there were cyber activity in Israel prior to the assault, Mallory noted. After the president concluded his Saturday afternoon remarks, a reporter shouted out, Mr. President, was there any intelligence failure that led up to this attack? Biden walked away without answering the question. Hmm. The attack itself was very complex. It proceeded with by rock. It proceeded by a rocket and a missile barrage of thousands, which likely buttoned up the IDF and a lot of the police force in Israel. It was then followed by denial of service attacks in Israel, then an air, sea, and land attack with assaulters coming in on tractors and breaching firms and the technical pickup trucks. With soldiers, small boats, paragliders, and multiple means of attack probably gave the IDF a significant tactical dilemma per Malloy. The next phase will be mostly to Israel, likely a ground invasion of Gaza to capture or kill militants and destroy the weapons and munition supplies of which the Palestinians or pay the worst price, according to Malloy, who said this will be followed likely by special forces operations in an attempt to decapitate the leadership and recover hostages and airstrikes as well. The operation's complexities indicate a national state like Iran was behind supporting the attackers with weapons and munitions, intelligence, and possibly operational planning. If Iran was behind it and it's orchestrated in any sense, they will have multiple proxies around Israel that could escalate this by irritating attacks from multiple directions, including Syria, according to Malloy. Another possible consequence of the attack is the dissolution of the current U.S. brokered talks and talks between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Excuse me about that. Negotiations. Sometimes you have a brain fart. I think I got one more for y'all. Then we're probably going to open it up a little bit. Clearly, a number of failures, lawmakers asking what happened and what went wrong following Hamas surprise attack. U.S. lawmakers and former national security officials are already pointing to a possible massive intelligence failure by the Israelis following the Hamas surprise attack on Israel on Saturday and are seeking more information from the Biden administration. Among those are members of Congress who want to know how Hamas was able to penetrate Israel's sophisticated networks of air defense, sending hundreds of rockets from Gaza into Israel. The lawmakers are focused on Israel and are avoid blaming the U.S. intelligence community, at least for now. Two congressional aides who had knowledge of the briefings were granted anonymity to discuss sensitive talks. Members of the committee have asked for a briefing as soon as they return to Washington on Tuesday. That something of this size could be pulled off, I can tell you that is not done without serious observable signals, said Representative Jim Himes, ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. It's kind of shocking in its size and ambition. Himes cautioned that he wants to withhold judgment until he gets all the facts. Still, while Israel's intelligence is about as good as it gets, the attack raises a lot of questions about who knew what, he said. On the other side of the aisle, Representative Mike Waltz, a former Green Beret and member of the House Intelligence Committee, said there were clearly a number of failures. I don't see how this got past their human intelligence network. There were clearly a signs intelligence issue. Were there, was there a complacency on Israelis' part? I don't know how they would have coordinated all that without some type of security communication is what my mind keeps going to. Well, former national security officials are expressing shock that Israeli intelligence officials did not detect the attack ahead of time. Hmm. We're going to go back to Mr. Mick Malloy, former Pentagon official, CIA officer, called the attacks an intelligence failure, noticing that there were likely indicators of a buildup of munitions and an assault force, as well as cyber activity. While he placed the blame and the failure primarily on the Israeli officials, he said the U.S. intelligence should have picked up something on their indicators as well. The U.S. did not provide air coverage for Israel, but the two countries share intelligence. They should have picked up something on this scale, Malloy said. The complexity of the operation indicates a nation state such as Iran was likely behind it. He said nothing that one reason may have been scuttled to the United States brokered deal with Saudi Arabia and Israel. If Iran was behind it and is orchestrating this in any way, they have multiple proxies in Israel, which can escalate by initiating attacks from multiple directions, including Syria. One former Israeli security official told the news that the unprecedented attack was catastrophic failure that was allowed to happen by disarray in the Israeli armed forces and intelligence service. Totally unprepared by this, the divisional headquarters responsible for Gaza was occupied. They were in disarray, so was the whole response has been delayed. Him said Iran was likely involved in the orchestrating of the attack. We are obviously going to support Israel in every way we can and will, and this is going to end very badly for Hamas, him said. If Iran had a hand in this, it will end badly for Iran. Waltz blamed the Biden administration for what he categorized as a weak Iran policy for enabling Tehran to continue supplying Hamas and Hezbollah with weapons. The two groups were allowed to build up a massive stockpile of unguided rockets that could have overwhelmed Israel's Iron Dome defense, he said. The entirety that fully funding and resourcing is it is Iran, Walt said. All roads go back to the failure of this administration's Iran policy. Iran is 100% calling the shots. Well, so give me a woo if you appreciate the research done. And if anybody have any questions, you can put them in the chat. Please like, share, subscribe. I know this isn't the most riveting thing for a lot of people, but we can't always speak about the gynocracy, right? So if anybody wants to come up and ask questions and get my professional opinion or my halfway opinion, you can come and get it. Like, share, subscribe, donate to the channel, please. There's not too many people who are going to talk about this and go on different platforms to look for information about this. And I think somebody had a question earlier, and I was asking them to hold it. Please post it or come up on the chat if you like your questions answered, because I'm going to tell you this. I agree that it was a failure within Israel's intelligence community. When you're the best intelligence agency in the Middle East, you don't just let people get on your border start stockpiling shit. You bomb the fuck out of them. You send your special operations to dismantle them. If I got to invade you because you're coming over to my border, guess what? I'm gonna have so much fucking heavy armor on my borders that I'm gonna sink the motherfucking peninsula. I'm sorry. There's no way in knowing the type of sophisticated air defense, the communities that they have. Sam C said, "Why do you think it's a failure of intelligence?" Well, it's obviously a failure of intelligence. I'm not snapping at you, but I'm gonna just say this: it's an obvious failure in intelligence when one of the major purposes that the United States is giving you money is to be the eyes and ears of the Middle East to the United States. And when somebody's that close to your border on Gaza, you didn't keep an eye on who's coming bringing shit on by boat and by plane to the Gaza Strip. That is funny. And some people, I have to say this, and I'm not trying to insult anybody's country or any heads of state, but there are some people in the world who let things happen so they can get their way. I need a reason to fight you, so I'm gonna just talk about your mom, or eh, just wait for you to do something. Now I got a reason to fight. I don't know if that's the case. We can only speculate right now till more things happen. Me personally, it's like what Calvin Rogers said: somebody will sleep at the wheel. You can't fall asleep at the wheel when you have shit like this going. You could take this down to the local level of police officers. If you have detectives who are gang detectives or drug detectives and you're getting information about a new shipment coming to the Baltimore harbor where they're going to bring a couple of tons of fucking fentanyl or coke or whatever to sell on the streets, are you not going to verify to see if that shit is actually accurate? Yeah, you're gonna get up there. Why are Gen Zs not enlisting? One reason Gen Zs are not enlisting is because one, Gen Zs are not in the shape. Two, a lot of Gen Zs are ruining their records. Three, a lot of Gen Zs don't have faith in the country. Four, a lot of Gen Zs were taught to be infeminized heavily, and it hurt them a lot more, so they don't see the masculine pride of joining something that's masculine like the military. For example, a lot of Gen Zs you see in college are talking about they hate the patriarchy, but the patriarchy is what got them into schools in the first place. See, it wasn't women that argued the fact for them to go to schools. It was men. Men who said, you know what? I want my woman to be educated. I want my daughter to be educated. I want my mother to be educated. For a lot of people who talk badly about patriarchy, they forget about how much patriarchy benefited them. What am I on? Five? Five. Thank you, Lion. They don't know about honor, duty, and respect. A lot of them praise the thug and not the soldier. If you look at the black community as a whole, through our, that's part of it. As a matter of fact, hey Tampa, come on up because it's going to be a lot. I want you to ask your questions live because we'll probably get more out of them because a lot of times and that's another reason why SAMC is that you don't have a lot of because you don't have a lot of tradition, especially from your father's side in the black community like you used to, because we devalued the role of the father. We look at the father as something that's secondary. We don't look at the something as the father as a great, as a great person. Most Gen Zs don't even know who their grandfather was. They barely know their fathers. They sure as hell don't know their great grandfathers. Okay. I'm an Iraq war vet. My father's a Vietnam vet. His father was a Korean War vet. My great grandfather was a World War II vet. So if you have no sense of pride and joining and a legacy, because in the black community we don't really believe in legacy because unfortunately we are a gynocracy. We are woman led. So anybody wants to join the link and ask questions, the link's right there. Give me 1 second. I am back. We're joined by the man. What's up, saying the man? Saying I can.
Hey, what's going on, man? I
Uh,
like your analysis so far.
what do you think of it?
I think it's pretty good that you brought all those different perspectives from those news stories. And one of the things that I was thinking is that maybe if Israel gets a little bit loose, it's kind of like the prison play, where you got to pay for protection. An example is like since we deal with Saudi Arabia, they trade oil in US dollars for protection. If the Middle East becomes destabilized, then the Saudis look to us instead of going with bricks for protection. What
Mm-hmm.
do you think about that?
Well, that's true. I'm going to ask you a question, and the reason I'm going to ask this for all the viewers and people who are going to follow, in the playback. What's the number one commodity of the American system?
Right now, it's oil in dollars.
The number one commodity of the United States is military might.
Okay.
We literally sell it. We literally force people into our dollar. Okay. And that being said, and people are going to get upset with me on how raw I'm going to be. And for those who don't like how raw I'm going to be, fuck you. That's why. I'm only giving you the facts. No matter how much you hate the truth, there's not denying that it's not what it is. And that's the reason why they have these treaties is because, hey, imagine buying your bully. How many people wish they could buy their bully? You get what I'm saying?
Right.
You got the kid on the block with the strongest arm, and he can kick everybody's ass. Wouldn't you want him as an ally? And like I'm gonna say this on another scale, that that invasion or that fight was too organized for Hamas for
It
them to
was
do.
well planned,
It was too well planned.
too well
And
planned, and they had too much support. I'm sorry for interrupting, Charles.
oh
Excuse
yeah,
me.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and what made it funny is that
Sorry.
I made a joke, and all of us are at least 40 plus. We remember GI Joe the movie. If you look at the videos of the and you look at GI Joe the movie, the intro, it looks damn near the same. It looks almost frame by frame of how they invaded Israel.
Definitely, definitely. Sorry to interrupt too. I,
Hey,
I
Kareem.
had to get on. I had to get on this. Sorry guys that I interrupt, but
Okay.
I had to get because I'm I'm at work, but I went outside because I can't talk about this because I work with those type of people. So
Yeah.
I had to come outside because I'm like, this. I've been watching this stuff from the very beginning, and I'm like, the Egyptian has just reported that he knew the BB, the prime minister, he knew the
That,
Egyptian warned him that
Benjamin,
it was going to
Benjamin
happen.
Yahoo. Yeah.
Then he knew that it was going to happen. So I'm thinking he's he wanted this shit to happen because he already nobody likes him and he wants to become the war hero or whatever hero by getting rid of Gaza, Hamas or whatever. I think this was too coordinated. All right, that's it. Go ahead. Sorry,
I'm
guys.
gonna I'm gonna say something to. A lot of people have referred to him as being kind of a warmonger because you got to think Netanyahu is very far right. Very, yeah, you're right, Jarvis. Cobra, la 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 la. La. Um, he sometimes you looking for something. I'm not. I'm a legend. Hold on,
Kenny Grandpa Panthro.
my phone, my other phone.
Yeah.
Just let it
In the
rock.
meantime, a little backstory about Mr. Netanyahu that I think everybody should know, if
It
I
was.
may.
Hold on for 1 second, and I'm gonna just finish this statement for about 30 seconds. You got the floor, Namer.
Thank
For
you.
what I'm looking for is that he's looking for a fight. He's looking for
Always.
he's looking for a fight. From what I'm gathering, from what I'm reading about him, and researching. He's looking for a fight. Is this the first time in history that shit like this have happened? No. I'm not saying that he let it happen, but for Israel to be literally giving billions of dollars a year to be the eyes and ears, somebody got some explaining to do, Lucy. But go ahead, Damon.
Let's get a couple of things straight here. His party he belongs to, Likud. This is the party of former Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir, Ariel Sharon, and this is a party who, first of all, they're conservative. They're opponents to, and also Menachem Begin was part of was the prime minister from this party as well. Menachem Begin was the prime minister who signed that Camp David Accord with Anwar Sadat. For everybody who wants to know what I'm talking about, Likud, first and foremost, by its doctrine, opposes the two-state solution. That's one thing you have to understand. That's why he, for the past,
Say that again for
his
the
pre,
take back.
I said the political party that Mr. Netanyahu belongs to, Likud, which is the longtime political rivals of the Labor Party, has since the beginning of the nation, since the creation of the state of Israel, opposes the formation of a Palestinian state. They've also been hell-bent on saying that Israel is a Jewish state, not a secular state, but a Jewish state. Secondly, Netanyahu himself is like all men, like all Israeli men and women, has served in the IDF. He is a veteran of the Yom Kippur War. When that shit went off, he left his college his scholastic endeavors in Pennsylvania to come home to report for duty. Also, his late brother, was part of that commando force that rescued all those Israelis that were held hostage in a plane hostage situation in Kampala Airport in Uganda back in the 70s. His brother was a lone casualty for the Israeli commandos in that one. So this man
He has a
is highly decorated. He is no joke when it comes to the military.
like you got to think about it. He is
Um,
one of those guys who has not only an axe to grind, but he has a broadsword in the other one, and he's looking. And something
He,
tells me that he wants so much revenge. He just wants to annihilate Palestine.
yeah. People
But
also forget. People forget also. He was the foreign minister for Yitzhak Shamir's government, and he was the foreign minister when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. Because people forget and I was in KSA at the time. I was a 7, 8 year old in KSA at the time when the Gulf War happened, when Desert Storm happened. I remember watching TV when Iraq was firing Scud missiles throughout the GCC, but they were also firing Scud missiles into Israel, hoping to draw Israel into the war. Because if Israel got into the war, then the Arab nations would all get involved.
yeah. Listen,
And I
he's
remember watching
hated.
it.
He's hated in his country. I mean, now
Oh,
some
he's
people,
very hated. He's very
yes,
hated because here's the thing: the coalition he has
people
right now,
know,
yeah, the coalition he has right now, it involves a lot of far right parties who are further right from Likud,
and
and most of
racist,
them
and very
racist
racist.
as fuck. One of those guys in that cabinet has been convicted of hate crimes and and incitement, and they're about pro Jewish settler programs and whatnot. And they said, yeah, he allowed it to happen. How? Because the country has been divided over these judiciary reforms they've been trying to establish, which would violate the judiciary's the judiciary's independence. Not to mention the the amount of forces they need to have to man that border with Gaza were redirected over to the West Bank, and he wanted this to happen. We talked about this on with BGS and whatnot.
I
He
told
wanted this to happen because it'd
I,
be a convenient distraction. But
yeah,
we've
I
also got to
wasn't,
forget.
I
Remember one more
wasn't
thing.
there.
I got to mention one more thing.
I'm not gonna go. I'm just saying bye to you. I have to go back to
Yeah.
work. But yeah, I am not
Oh.
using pretty face. I actually studied this in college. But listen, I gotta go. Thank you for
Uh-huh.
having me, Charles. I'm so happy you're doing this because I'm listening to it at work.
Mhm.
All right, bye. Bye, guys.
All right. All right. I got to mention one more thing, Charles. In Tel Aviv last month, there was a debacle that took place. If you were watching the news involving Africans,
Mm.
it was between two factions of Eritreans, pro-government, anti-government. The pro-government, they were trying to have some kind of a celebration for September the 1st, which is an important holiday in Eritrean history. The anti-government were trying to shut that down.
Mm.
I saw what happened in that. I saw the scuffles that happened, the altercations, and how the vandalism, all that happened. You would think the government and the mayor, of course, the mayor was forced to step down in that situation at that time. And you would think there would have been more of a greater police presence down there just to stop that thing and shut that shit down. No, they allowed that to happen because it would have been a great distraction. It would took away attention from all the anti-government protests that have been running amok for the past 10 months. And in those protests, many of the people were reservists who said they would refuse to answer the call of duty if they were called up to, for military exercises.
Mm.
And with this shit happening, it's like Winston Churchill said, never let a good tragedy go to waste.
So,
So this
saying
is
that,
this.
what do you think the U.S. interest is over there with this situation?
First of all, you do not want. First of all, let's consider a couple of things. We ask. There's like they ask what's called, like Cicero always asks, cui bono, who benefits? You know what I'm saying, Sam? To who benefits this? At the local level, Hamas benefits from this. Why? Because they've been able to prove that they are the stronger force. The their rivals in the West Bank, Fatah, people, a lot of them, their legitimacy is put into question because of what happened. At the greater level, Hamas also wins. Why? Because there were certain countries that were normalizing relations with Israel. For one of them, Saudi Arabia. If Israel and Saudi had some kind of political relationship, of course, one of the pretexts for that would have been the Palestinian state coming to fruition. That takes legitimacy away from Hamas. So Hamas wants to keep the divisions because Hamas knows they are opposed because Hamas themselves are opposed to a two-state solution as well. That's what people forget about.
Mm.
Islamic Jihad in Palestine also oppose the two-state solution. Fatah, that's a PLO, they want a two-state solution. You look at everybody on the political left in Israel, especially the Labor Party, who were the longtime rivals of Likud. They want a two-state solution. But since the second Intifada, going back in 2000, 2001, it's been the anti-two-state solution folks who've been like calling the shots and had their voices being heard more often because of the whole instability, the violence, and everything. And and these groups want to drive a wedge between the people who want peace by causing all this chaos.
Let me put it to you this way: it's
Mhm.
who benefits. One, why would Netanyahu benefit?
Now he's
Netanyahu.
got to fight, and he becomes a war because the war hawk in him can go in there, shut that shit down, and make himself look like a war hero. But because of what happened, it also destroys his credibility at the same time. That's a
Netanyahu.
risk he's willing to take.
Netanyahu wants a war. Every
Yeah,
every head of state wants a war that they can win.
yeah.
A legacy. Two, who else benefits? Muslim extremists. What's the point
Hmm.
in an extremist if you don't have shit to fight? Anybody?
Rebel without a cause, you end up fighting yourself. You end up
Exactly.
going on guns yourself.
So in other
And
words,
people also forget, Charles, you got to understand, Hamas controls West Bank with an iron fist, but
oh
there are
yeah,
some groups in there that are far worse than them.
oh I know.
Who?
Talking
Oh
about
yeah.
you talking about Hezbollah?
No, Hezbollah's in southern Lebanon,
I
and
know.
that's their allies. But
I,
there's also some factions who are just as Islamist or even far further Islamic than Hamas.
I mean, you're looking. They're trying to make a resurgence of global terror.
Mm.
And this is what happens when you can actually galvanize troops. Yes, you can galvanize Jews over the world, but guess what you're also doing all over the world as well.
Galvanizing Arabs, especially galvanizing Arab Muslims.
And it's funny because who takes the play and who takes the bait? And that's what ultimately comes down to it. Is it some people don't want freedom, some people don't want statehood, some people want to see the world burn. Why? Because fuck you, that's why. It's like I told my son in the Padawan, look, there are some people so evil, there's no such thing as talking them down. The best thing to do with a mad dog is to put it down. Can you reason with a mad dog? No.
No,
That mad dog, if you let it persist and exist, it's gonna just do nothing but damage and hurt people
and spread rabies.
and spread rabies and a lot of other diseases and terror. And what happened is that I think that lately in the last few presidencies,
Hmm.
we played kid gloves with this level of terrorism, and it shows. You saw how many people backed the fuck down when they put Bin Laden down. They were scrambling. They were scrambling with
There's
the
no head. They
huh?
were waiting for his oldest son. There was no head. And let's not forget, his number two, Ayman Zawahiri, he wasn't as charismatic. So even when he took the helm of Al Qaeda, nobody would swore loyalty to him. And then when ISIS came into existence, a lot of people were trying were saying were were a lot of groups were like swearing allegiance to them instead of to Al Qaeda.
And it's crazy because now you're gonna have the factions of who is not only who wins, but it's also who loses, who benefits, but who loses. And there's a lot that I could say about Israel because Israel has a very shady past itself. Nobody wants to talk about it, but look what they do to Ethiopian Jews.
Beta Israel. It's not even just Ethiopian Jews. What they did to Beta Israel, by the way, they're called Beta Israels. It's not just Ethiopian, they also got Eritrean Jews.
Mm-hmm.
What they did to them is fucked up, yes. But they still recognize as Israeli citizens. But to the rest of us us related folks who are of their ilk, who are non-Jewish, they do a whole lot worse, especially in the current migrant crisis. And
Mm-hmm.
the Beta Israel only are less than 2% of that population.
Yeah.
That's 180. That's less than 180,000. And the Africans and the other Africans in there, like the Ethiopians, Eritreans, Sudanese, they're like about no more than like less than 100, less than like what 75,000, no more than 100,000. And a lot of them still have to battle for legitimacy, paperwork, and whatnot. And they're
Yeah.
sometimes called, and the ones who are there applying for asylum, the Netanyahu government on two occasions referred to them as infiltrators. That term, infiltrators, is to make a false equivalency with Hamas and everybody, which doesn't make any sense because Hamas are Arab Muslims. Most of these Africans are Christians. There are
Mhm.
Muslims among them, but there are a lot more Christians among us. So where is the equivalency?
Well, you got to think about it. They want to be isolationists.
Exactly.
They want to be isolationists. They want it to be a Jewish state. So,
How are you going to do that when you have Arab citizens among your groups? Like you got Palestinians with Israeli citizenship, you got
but
Arab Bedouins
it's
with
called
citizens. Go ahead.
it's called shh.
True.
It's called you want to be so right wing that you're looking for a fight, and it's like, wait a minute.
What
To
do you
answer,
guys?
go ahead, Sam.
I saw where Trump said that he would made things a little bit less easier for the Palestinians to act up if he were in office. I get that that's kind of a political talking point to kind of garner more votes, but what do you think the current administration could have done to have prevented such an outcome?
One, the intelligence community knows of certain things. They know of movements. When they start hearing key words, key dates, key phrases, and you telling me that we don't have an eye on Iran, we don't have an eye on Syria, we don't have an eye on Gaza, that's that's a,
South Lebanon.
that's a little far fetched because one, this is what happens when you put more importance on who can use the bathroom than the national or global security. I said it. There I
Hmm.
said. Look what did we fight in this administration right now? What did we fight?
Culture wars,
We're just fighting
mostly.
wars. We're just fighting. Well, I have the right to call myself a woman. Does that mean a hill of fucking beans if the country gets invaded?
Or if there's another attack, because we haven't forgotten about like what happened in San Bernardino,
Mm,
or like what happened in Orlando.
yeah, I'm gonna tell you, your sexual preference has nothing to fuck to do with anything if your family or yourself is accosted. Sorry. What does your sexual preference have to do with it?
Hmm.
Nothing.
Um, yeah. Oh, by the way, excuse me, Charles. I just you talked about Israel's shady past.
Yeah.
If I can make a suggestion to a podcast called the Martyr Made. It's by a man named Bradley. No, sorry, Daryl Bradley. No, Daryl Cooper and Daryl Bradley. Sorry, and he does a long version. It's kind of like Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. He does the history of the formation of the nation, how it came about, and people forget that there were Jewish terrorist groups as there were Arab terrorist groups when it was still being administered by the British
Hmm.
up till 1948. People need to understand where did Menachem Begin, David Ben Gurion, and a whole lot of people come from, and how did they end up there?
Yeah. A lot of people don't understand that. That's just like you got people who want to be hush hush about certain things.
Shit.
And then if you're telling the truth, oh, you're just being anti Semitic. How?
I dare somebody to call me that.
Because a lot of black people are more Semitic than the people there.
Give it to me.
I mean, let's break down Semitic. Go ahead, Eric, break down Semitic.
Semitic. The word Semitic. It comes from the word Shem. Shem, as in one of the three sons of Noah. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Shem also mean Shem. The word Shem also refers to the Holy Land because Arabs call that area Asham, or the Levant, as y'all call it. But that also extends all the way to the Arabian Peninsula because all the people there are interrelated to one another. The
And
ancient
also,
Sabians, the Himyarites,
hmm
um, some of the people in the islands off the coast of Yemen called the South Arabians. They're all interconnected, interrelated to one another in one form or another. The Arabs and the Jews, they also are Semitic because both of them claim descent from Father Abraham, who was the descendant of Shem. Only one's through Isaac, the other's from Ishmael.
yeah. And then you forget about Samaria, you forget about a lot of these places originally had a lot of were darker than me ruling them. Okay.
My
Oh,
people come from that ancestry. But that
exactly.
doesn't make us less African, though.
It doesn't make you less African, but when a person calls a black person anti-Semitic, I'm going to ask you the question: Are you anti-me? Am I
I've
anti?
even,
Because
I
I
mean,
I
oh, sorry,
got
go ahead, sorry.
I got more Semitic blood running than most people who claim the religion. And here's the crazy part:
Hmm.
when you really go into the genealogy of things,
Hmm.
who's the first son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba? Menelik the first.
Menelik, Menelik the first.
So
And what is his name? And what does Menelik mean?
I forgot what it meant.
Son of the wise in ancient Sabian.
Yeah, so that's very Semitic. What's up, Jay Sean? No long time no see.
Was good.
The U.S. need to pull our support from this oppressive, brutal occupation. Yeah, if you want to come up, Jay Sean, you're free to come up.
Come on up. Here's the problem I say about ending the occupation, but I didn't. The Intifada, the way it started, and everything, when they started blockading, Gaza and the West Bank and everything, um, it was a Palestinian political prisoner who was of the PLO, Marwan Barghouti. His brother Mustafa is in the Palestinian parliament and a member of the PLO. He said, "You're not going to end this intifada by violence, by just oppression and whatnot. You have to end occupation. You have to work with us, with Fatah. Work with the PLO.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just giving the extremists fuel, and you're giving them plenty of ammo to railroad the peace process."
Mhm.
There was a chance that Palestine could have been established as a state. Was it like at the turn of the millennium? But something was. But Yasser Arafat, they say Yasser Arafat did not want to accept it. Some of the terms he didn't like, but I'm not sure. Something that doesn't make add up to me. I could be wrong though.
They could have made that shit. They could have did this rivalry a long time ago. But you got to think there's too many people getting paid off to keep the fighting going.
Too many people. I mean, not to mention, I mean, if Saudi Arabia did officially normalize ties with Israel from a regional geopolitical standpoint, who would lose from that? Iran,
Hmm.
because Iran and KSA have their Cold War of sorts.
Yeah, and I mean,
And this
Iran
benefits Iran in a sense because now you can cause this type of division, and now a lot of Arab states have to out of
solidarity.
ethnic loyalty side with Hamas, or
Yeah,
some will just remain neutral.
and it's what's even more shameful is that Egypt and Jordan told them about this shit.
Jordan, Egypt have some of the best intelligence services as well. The Jordanians don't fuck around. The Egyptians don't fuck around. They're just
King
they're just
Abdullah,
like,
King Abdullah will fuck you up.
oh, you want to see somebody who fuck you up? You should have seen his grandfather, King Hussein, the
Mm.
late King Hussein. Because remember, it was under his reign in '94 that Jordan became the second country to recognize Israel as a state.
Yeah, and people forget that the Jordanian royal family, they claim they're descendants from
The Prophet Muhammad through his daughter, which one daughter is it? Fatima,
yeah,
and they call themselves the Hashemites or
who
Hashemi, as they called. In
that means
fact,
they're the guardians of Jerusalem.
yeah, they're
Which
not the only family who also claims descent from the Prophet. The Moroccan royal family does so as well through that same daughter.
yeah, and you got to remember they when they call them Hashemites, they claim they're the guardians of Jerusalem and the Holy Lands.
And
And
Hashem, yeah,
yep, so you got to remember if shit kicks off really well, Jordans
hmm,
are automatically in
should.
because they see
I
themselves
mean,
as defenders.
should. There's one group of people you'd also in the Arab world. You want to talk about security agencies. There's one group you do not want to mess with in Saudi Arabia, and that is the Royal Guard. They're the elite of the elite.
Nah,
Their loyalties to the king and to protect the king at all times and the royal family.
there's
The intelligence services there, they do not fuck around.
no. I mean, you got to remember. Oh yeah, the military industrial complex is going to get pizzade, and then
Oh yeah, you're right. OS1. OS1. How long did you serve in the Navy? In fact, like last, I remember you did this one time, Charles. To all the veterans who are in the chat, how about you name what branch you were and how long you served?
yep, everybody who been in the military, put your name, grade, rank, and time you served. But you got to remember, yep,
Hmm.
yep, King Hussein was a badass. You got to think about it is that you know King Abdullah was special operations, and
Oh, he don't fuck around. King Abdullah II, by the way.
yeah,
King Abdullah II.
he doesn't fuck around. And I mean, he was special operations. They didn't treat him no better if he was even when he was the crown prince. They didn't treat him any better.
No, I mean King Hussein himself. Let's not forget when he was a young king, when he was still a young king, because he inherited the king his throne from his grandfather at a young age. But he was trained by the British. A lot of people forget that.
Kareem's a fool. Shiva said King Hussein was a badass. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, but yeah, well, that's true.
He said I love the
Army
hell.
OSC.
And OS1 Sailor Maine. It's 20 years. Nice.
Shit.
Salute you, brother. Salute
Mm.
to Sam. Doing
I might
40.
start crying. I might
And
start crying because just remembering my dad.
Calvin Rogers, Sergeant Major, 22 years. Um, yeah, you got a lot of vets here. Most of my live streams are vets and current
Yeah,
military personnel
yeah.
or
My
police.
dad, USACE, like I've mentioned, 13 years. Actually, was it? No, 79 to 94. That's like 15. Sorry. But but I will tell you something, Charles. One of his proudest moments were to see his two oldest sons not only graduate from high school and college, but after we did our SATs or our metric exams, he was there to come home and he was there to see us off when we had to go to boot camp to do our national service.
Yeah.
And like you see the avatar I got, that's that military heritage I carry with me at all times. I don't forget it.
And thank everybody for their service.
Thank you. The United States owes you more than just a debt of gratitude.
Black Scorpion,
Oh,
Air Force,
yeah.
15, 12.5 years. It's funny because everybody in the military,
Mm-hmm.
even if you're police or firefighters, because you're still in the realm of public safety, because you got to think all my certificates and shit from FEMA,
First
you know,
responders too. Let's not forget that. EMTs.
responders, everybody who went through planning and all this other shit, we
Mm-hmm.
intelligence. And trust me, my certification from and brown sausage, eat 4 or 5 years. Uh, you could look at the risk management and risk mitigation. The risk management was very poor. I would have to say. Yes, I know some things can be out your power, but to this level, in this type of ingenuity, to this level of execution, that was poor. That was very, very poor.
Oh yeah.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? A long term, supporter of the channel and the guy who told me, Charles, start your own fucking show. Jay Shine, everybody. Jay Shine. How's the young, not so young lady anymore doing?
Shit, doing her thing, man. She's working. She's a soldier.
Oh, she joined?
Yeah, yeah. She's over here working in launch stool, picking up dead bodies and just she's a serious, employee now.
Oh man.
Yep. So
She's all grown up, huh?
that's the business she's in. She's in the business of death. So
Mortuary affairs, huh?
yeah, man.
That takes a. She must be a strong. strong young lady to take that shit day to day.
You know they have to go through psych evaluations and whatnot every year and everything like that because they know how this shit can take a toll on you.
Yeah. Well,
Even in even
I
in
didn't know
this
she was
even in the city and
I
state
didn't know
level
she
morgues,
was
they do the same thing.
I didn't know she was built like that until I was like, shit, this is what you want to do? She was like, yeah. And I was all right. Let's see what happens in AIT, right, Charles? But
Yeah.
she was calling me from AIT, yeah, I was in somebody's brains today, and I was like, what the fuck?
Did you grow up watching CSI or by any chance?
I don't know what she was watching, man. I don't know what the fuck she was watching, but she, she about that life,
Well, that's your baby, but hey, I'm sure she got it from somewhere, from somebody. You got to be somebody your side of the family or somebody from my mom's side of the family.
And here's a message from Kareem to Jay Sean. Jay Sean, I want to be a part of your campaign when you decide to run for president.
Shit, I can't remember. I cuss too much. Like, what the
Oh,
fuck you
excuse me,
say to me?
forgot to put a like. Thank you, Mr. Rogers.
Don't forget everybody to put the likes to the channel. Please support. Please hit the Cash App if you so desire. But a like costs nothing, man. And it's funny because notice how many content creators you hear talking about this shit.
Oh, plenty.
I don't
Well,
know.
not from us, but established some serious channels that I watch, like the ones in geopolitics and such.
Yeah, I could.
Especially because how they describe this attack. Because one of them said like Hamas threw everything they had, most of their arsenal they threw into this. So this was basically like a sucker punch.
Yeah.
Now they're waiting for the response because most of those rockets they fired are gone. Are they've already spent a lot of. It's like World War I. They spent a lot of their artillery for this shit for this one attack, but they made it count.
Yeah, you got to make a.
Now they're just waiting for the reply because they're hunkering down in defense because they know the response is coming. They
And they
don't know when. Go ahead.
and they know that it's going to be hell coming for them because one, you're going to have to make a counter assault because what you're doing right now is counterinsurgency, and it's very similar to when I fought in Iraq, where people were taking over towns, blocks, and shit like this. You had to recapture the land. What the worst thing that they did was take all their forces that was defending Gaza and move them mostly to the West Bank, like we said earlier. Now you got
To
to,
support the settlers.
yeah. Now you got to recover ground, and God forbid if they're fortified.
That's what the airstrikes have been for so far. But here's the thing. Here's what's also worse. Now you got the full undivided attention of the state of Israel. Because when you attacked, they were divided. It was on a holiday. You brought the people together. They're all looking. All the Jews are looking at each other and said, "You know what? Let's put our differences aside because somebody wants our undivided attention." This could and they've had incursions before, and Hamas has learned from previous incursions. I'm pretty sure, so they're prepared for this. Depending on what forces they still have left, they still have accounted for. But who knows? They may have learned. They might be prepared for this shit.
Well,
And Israelis, they're gonna go in. When they go in, I'm sure they're gonna be thinking, all right, what should we expect? What kind of nasty surprises could we have? Could it be like what happened in Iraq, or could it be like what happened in '93 in Somalia? Or
I
think of other scenarios where you had urban combat.
think it's gonna be perfect timing from Sailor Man. I did time in the Middle East, and one of the things saying I learned from a local, another man's terrorist is another man's hero. This entire
Freedom fighter. Yeah.
get bigger.
Yeah.
Shit.
The biggest terrorist in that region is Israel, but I digress. But
Well,
this,
Nah, it's cool. You can say that. I mean, I don't disagree
I,
with that
I,
to an
I'm-
extent.
I mean, I'm not mad at it because Israel has been known to throw a rock and hide their hand many of times.
shit,
Even
they throw more than a rock. They throw a goddamn boulder at you.
yeah,
You hit them with the mass punishment that they execute against these people is
Mm-hmm.
atrocious. And
Right,
and
right.
I'm telling you right now, this is a bad thing that happened for us right now, geopolitically. We don't need this right now because what they're about to do to the Palestinians is going to be brutal, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And
Shit. I mean,
yeah, and
and the funny, I'm
it's
like,
gonna hurt us.
like,
It's gonna
yeah,
hurt us politically, geopolitically. You know what I mean?
It's gonna be like, you're gonna have the Arab world say, why did you let that happen? Because
Yeah.
Netanyahu is not gonna spare any expense when it
Mhm.
comes to brutality.
and he's always itching for a fight. This man's a hawk by nature.
Well, they want the excuses every time they get an opportunity, or the smallest excuse is to kill as many as they can. So, and you can tell if you just look at a map. The map tells you everything. You can play games and semantics with it, but if you look at a map for the last 60 years, I mean, just look at the land that's been taken, and this is a slow, gradual genocide, and we supported it, and it's time to back away from this shit.
And you got to remember this. For decades, they said there will be no Palestinian state. Where do you
That's Lakud's word.
what was that? What was that called? What was that area called before Israel?
Palestine. Yeah.
So this is difficult for me to say. No, it isn't.
Mhm.
I got into a debate a few years ago about comparing the Holocaust to the Black struggle, antebellum slavery,
Hmm.
with a Jewish guy. And you know me, Jay Sean. I'm with the shits. The Baltimorean in me sometimes is too with the shits.
Hmm.
And I asked him, I said, let me ask you this question, right? And I don't, and just for all you ignorant motherfuckers, I think both are atrocities. So there. But they're different. And I will defend the fact that they're different.
Hmm.
And I asked him, I said, when y'all were in concentration camps, right? Were you allowed to keep your name? You're like, yes. Were you allowed to keep your religion? Yes. As a matter of fact, those Nazi bastards even made you put stars on your jackets, right? Yeah, the star there, yeah. So even when you came out of there, what happened? You had a nation formed by the money of London and the muscle of the United States to give you Israel, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
What happened to blacks during slavery? Were we allowed to keep our beliefs? No.
No,
Were we allowed to keep our families together?
no,
Were we allowed to keep our names?
no,
Let's go back even further. What type of reparations were we given from England and America? Their ass to kiss.
none.
Yeah. And they reneged on Reconstruction, everything. They reneged on everything. Wasn't giving shit.
So this is what I tell them. You got a country, we got the America's ass to kiss. As a matter of fact, they were so doubled down on the dumb shit, they came up with something that was pseudo slavery or meta slavery, as I would call it. Because
Mhm.
Prison industrial complex.
proto would be actually before. So it's
Hmm.
meta slavery, which is AKA Jim Crow.
Don't forget the black code, the black code before that.
Oh yeah, the black codes and all that shit.
Mhm.
So when when you look at this and they claim, and because every time you check Israel on some shit, or the Jewish people in America or around the world, when they do some finagly and fugazi shit, they want to hide behind all this. Well, we were persecuted shit. How can you be the people persecuting others if you already know how it felt? See how fugazi that shit is?
Mhm.
And then you're gonna do this against people who don't have your same skin color, but have a longer and actually truer lineage of Judaism than you do.
So
Yeah.
let's see, you got the Yemenite, the Mizrahi, Beta Israel, the Bukharis, the Sephardic Jews in a sense, yeah.
But historically, I said it before. A lot of Jews that you see in Europe came from Russia and all that little Prussian and Russian area because
Uh-huh.
Russia was a Jewish
Eastern
state
Europe,
for years.
Mm.
Ukraine.
So,
Hey,
Also,
thanks
let's not
for
forget
letting
something,
me ask
Charles.
questions. I'm gonna follow on the chat.
okay,
Okay.
cool. Anytime, man. And this ain't me picking on people. This is just me giving historical fact, right, fellas?
Mm. Yeah. I mean, let me say something about that. I mean, when they were responding to this attack, there was a term they used. Israeli officials were using, and the word was pogrom. You know what a pogrom is, Charles?
Explain, please.
This goes back to the subjugation that many Jews had experienced in Europe. Every now and then, there'd be a spark of violence, whether it was like the Black Death or there was something going wrong in the area. They would always blame the Jews. And a pogrom was basically you would just, at any given time, you would just have roving bands of Christians, white European Christians, come down to any Jewish area and they would run roughshod through the area, beating, killing people, looting, destroying the area. Local authorities were sometimes involved in even directing people into it. You even had a couple, and pogroms were happening almost anywhere, especially in the Russian Empire. You even had, there was even a couple of pogroms that took place when the Nazis were in control of Germany. And to equate that, what happened now to that, is them trying to, create some kind of a, historical equivalence because Jews would get persecuted that way. And the only thing, and Jews could not fight back because if they tried to fight back, it would have gotten worse. So the only thing a Jewish community could do was flee to another place.
Mm.
That's why they were always paranoid about this shit.
Yeah, it sounds like a European problem though.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I think for the longest
all
time,
wrong.
when you look at a lot of these factions, this is Europe's issue. A lot of the mess that you look what happened. If you never, and that's why I hate the ethnocentristic attitude of
Hmm.
Europeans, because if we never had a United Nations or a NATO, you motherfuckers be fighting more than anywhere else on the planet.
You would have made what happened in the former Yugoslavia look like child's play. There would have been far worse atrocities.
Yeah, and that's the one thing they don't want to tell you about because look at what happened. I mean, you look at France and Germany and England. Them motherfuckers been fighting for 500 years.
The Spanish too,
Sure,
the Dutch.
you ain't go back. You ain't gotta go back that far. Look at the Slavic cousins killing each other right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
just let you
so
know.
Hell, you want to talk about other Slavic? That's what I also mentioned about former Yugoslavia, because most of them are the only group that are not Slavic in that area are the Albanians.
Mm.
yeah,
And look at the shit they all went through. They all
Yeah.
went at each other after the collapse of Yugoslavia, especially actually after the death of Tito.
Hey, can I address something in the chat room real quick?
please,
Oh yeah, cool.
please.
Yeah, Nub Glory, is making a point, and I know what they alluding to,
Which
but
part?
I know there's some people out there, especially in the black community, who think that the military is no place for a black man. But you gotta understand something. When you're part of a nation, whether you serving that military or not, you're still serving that nation. Taxes, you're still
Mm.
part of it. So the issue with us as black men is not that we fight in the military or participate in the police department or whatever.
Mm.
It's that we're not political
Mm-hmm.
like we need to be. When you're political, you have a say in policy. You know what I mean? You have a seat at the table. You have a say in that policy. So in this regard, we're talking about foreign policy. Where's the real black man's voice in policy? So when I talk about doing politics, I'm not just talking about dealing with Keisha. That's why I say Keisha is an easy problem. we have bigger fish to fry. And
Mm-hmm.
because we're not doing politics as black men, we don't affect policy, which means we don't have a say. So, like right now, we all know what Israel's done is wrong. Even everybody in Capitol Hill knows what Israel's doing is wrong. But because of the politics, because of the money, you know what I mean, from the Jewish lobbies and the ADL, you know what I mean, they have a say in American foreign policy. And,
IPAC.
and that's been built up over time. You know what I mean? So this is something, even though you got people who are powerful people who happen to be white, they still have to do what? Raise money,
They still
spend
got
money,
the rent.
lobby money, right? They have to do the business of politics, and we're not in that
Fundraising.
arena. So even though you can say something like the military is not a place for a black man, which I disagree with for a whole other different reasons. It works better if we're part of the power structure, and that's what we need to be working on going forward. That's the only thing that matters right now for black men is power.
And I think to piggyback off of Jay Shine, one of the quickest ways to obtain that power is through military service. Most black people cannot afford homes. Now, if you get a GI Bill to guarantee you back by the government to get a home, guess what you do?
Uh-huh.
Buy a home. You create generational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
You create power. You create substance. Military service. You get them extra bonus points of getting any federal job. Now you're in a different class. Now you can send your kids to better schools.
Yeah.
So,
Excuse me, Charles.
yes, sir.
I apologize for interrupting, but there's a point that needs to be made here, especially when they said like Jay Shine in rebuking debunking the whole no place for a black man in the white man's army.
Mm-hmm.
Like take your father, for example, or maybe your grandfather who have served previously. They got anybody who served, whether it was Korea, World War II, after World War II, Korea, Vietnam. How many black men were shafted or were boxed out of the GI Bill and some of the VA benefits until recently?
Until like the recent 20, 30 years, a lot of them.
I mean, Obsidian himself, his father was among those. Was a veteran who got shafted out of his as well.
Well,
That's where that shit is coming from. So I'm not trying to over embellish or downplay whatever that notion is. I'm just saying that when some people say that stuff, do they actually know what the reason behind that statement? I do understand it because I've met some older veterans who've been like that, and
and
there's
here's
younger ones who finally got their benefits, like yourself. But you guys had to fight for that.
there's no strength without struggle. I'm gonna say it again for the niggas in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! There is no strength without
Right?
struggle. You
Resistance.
you got to realize something.
Hmm.
A guy like Jay Shine, whose
Hmm.
daughter's in the military doing mortuary affairs,
Hmm.
he struggled with stuff that his daughter may never see. You get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
You got to leave it a little bit better for the next generation. And too long, a lot of black men have accepted the doctrine of sit on your laurels. Now, when I say do not vote, that does not mean do not be political. I want to
Agree.
say this again. When I say black men should sit on their vote, it does not mean black men should not be political. Jay Sean, how many years have I said we should lobby both sides of the aisle?
Yeah, we should be the
Totally agree.
the greatest, swing vote, and I'm talking about just black men alone.
Exactly.
And but here's the thing: we can easily Keisha's so silly and and idiotic. She doesn't realize that she's stuck. So when I talk about running up in the Democratic Party and turning over tables, I'm talking about common vote, right? Doing the same thing that the Tea Party did on the right. Look how crazy that shit is. Look what's going on right now with Scalise and Jordan. You about to have two racist ass white men as the Speaker of the House. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? That's how radical that party's become because it's been pulled from inside the party. They didn't get frustrated with the Republican Party and said, nah, I'm voting Democrat. No, they commandeered the vote because you know why? It's kind of like this white boy I talked to at my job. We were talking about this last week, actually. This guy named Adam, older white dude, but he's talking about his father, how his father is. He's more center left. His father's hardcore right. Reason why his father's hardcore right, because he could never vote for a liberal, right? He can't. So what I mean by commandeering the vote is there's a bunch of white people on the right that could, no matter how disenchanted they're not, no matter how much they dislike Trump or whoever the nominee is, they never going to vote for a Democrat. So they have to vote against the Democrats no matter what's going on in their party. That's how you commandeer the vote. Where's Keisha going to go?
She has to stay in her party.
Exactly. So you do is you primary through the Democratic Party and you pull it, but you got to be active and you got to be deliberate about it. So when I keep bringing up the point of 11,700, just using Trump's voice, right? What happened down in Georgia? You can't tell me we couldn't have swung that state. I'm talking about either voting for Trump or not voting at all, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, I disagree with some of the people who say don't vote. I don't agree with that. I think we should do something different.
Depends.
I want to become kamikaze slash political terrorists. I want us to show up in mass numbers for every election, but then we vote how we want to vote. Like for instance, like this vote coming up next year. Say it's Biden versus Trump again, and we're not getting anything we want. We show up in record numbers, but we fucking do write-in campaigns. We vote for Charles Faulkner. But see, here's the thing. After the polls closed, our numbers showed up. It showed that we had numbers, we had organization, we have a mind with something to be taken seriously. The reason why other groups are taken seriously because they either show with their numbers or they show with their money. And we're not doing either. So we
And
have no say in policy.
and that's the reason why me and Jay Shine for years talked about it. And by the way, there are times when me and Jay Shine disagree, correct?
Yeah.
But that's how men are. We don't hate each other. Like just now, I I have a doctrine that we shouldn't vote, but we should lobby. He has a doctrine that we should show up in numbers.
I think we should do both. Yeah.
I
I
think
agree with
we
the
should
lobby part too. Yeah.
would maximize both ideals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the common sin of black men for not doing both.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're joined by the new bringer of the Coliseum, AB Media. Say what's up, AB.
Hey, what's going on, Charles, Jay Shine, and
What's up, AB? Hey,
Namer?
AB, before you go, can I just say one thing? Because I gotta get out of here. Let me say this one last part. Let
Go
me
ahead.
add one last nugget to this real quick before I
And by
go.
the way, Jay Sean, my new number's in the back chat.
Okay, I'll get that real quick before I get off. All right, thanks, man. I'll hit you. You on WhatsApp? You still on WhatsApp?
I'm still on WhatsApp and shit
Okay,
like.
I'll hit you on that. But I just want to add this wrinkle. Another reason why we have to vote, Charles, is because of practice. You
Yeah,
being a military man and a man of process, you understand what I'm talking about.
of
Right
course.
now, 20 black people are not registered. Right. So there's not something we can flip. So I hear a lot of people, not you, but a lot of people, being in space talking about we shouldn't vote until we get tangibles and et cetera, et cetera. So say a politician does come along talking right. You can't just flip that shit on like that because people are not going to be registered. They're not going to have the culture of voting. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
we have to have the army always doing it. So instead of going in and saying, all right, we're going to just vote and throw our vote away to the Democrats or throw our vote away to the Republicans. If we're not getting what we want, at least we showed up, our numbers accounted for, and at the same time, our soldiers are getting practice. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So we have our reps in place where people know what to do. They know because there's a lot of hurdles being thrown at certain communities in certain parts of the country.
yeah.
If you want to
Like
see
I'm not
Alabama,
saying
Georgia,
vote
huh?
locally. I'm not saying you don't vote locally now. I think
Yes,
local.
and then that was the last part I was going to throw. And then you got the local shit where we should be affecting change. School boards, county, folk, whatever you in. If you're in the city councils, county, people, we should be heavy in that area, especially where we have numbers. We should not be absent in North Carolina, absent in Georgia, absent in Texas. You know what I mean? We should be 10 toes down and not giving a fuck what Keisha thinks, doing what we want. And what's she going? And again, the question I have for brothers: where the fuck she gonna go? she's stuck in the Democratic Party. She can't go nowhere else. So when you do pull things off the tables and you say, "I'll give you an easy one," we don't want no men in skirts teaching our children. End
No,
of. You know what I mean?
Go,
We're not voting for your
go
ass for
back on
school,
that.
whatever, whatever. We're not voting for none of these people to be on the school board if we don't get our fucking way. What they gonna do? What they gonna do? They already mad at us. They already calling you dusties and all kinds of shit and bully bags. What the fuck? You can't go no lower. So who gives a fuck what they think, what they say? Just
I
accommodate
think
their vote. Accommodate their vote. You know why they gonna still vote? They still want fucking handouts. They still want lookout. They want people to look out for them. They still want those goodies they get. You know what I mean? Those positions and or those financial things, right? That they what I mean. And that's fine. Let them have that. Even let them have abortion. Let them have all that shit. That's how you accommodate a vote because you don't have any numbers on the other side. So this is what you got to do, and this starts on a local level. And that's why, and then when you start weaving your way through the political system, and then you can affect change, and that affects foreign policy as well.
And I think that, by the way, this is starting to be a fire panel already. I don't care if I got
shit. Send all here.
We got Sanddog. Hey, Captain Jack, meet me by the railroad track with that knife in my hand.
I got that knife in my hand.
Hey, Sandog, I'm coming your way.
I should have got the Admiral Ernest King picture here.
I'm coming your way this December, man.
Yo, hey, you know what? I will be more than glad to link up with you, fam.
I'll be in Dubai twice. I'll be in Dubai for 2 days, and then I'll be out there for New Year's for 4 days.
Jay Sean, can I give you a piece of advice, man?
What's up?
Dress warmly. I grew up just north of there. I grew up just up along the seacoast from where Sanddog is from, where Sanddog's at.
Okay.
Yeah.
I suggest because it's December, it's cold as hell. Dress warmly because it's going to be raining hard at times.
Okay.
I'm gonna say this. Yeah, the Middle East is going through the monsoons around this time.
Yeah, this time of year they're gonna not now, but by November it's gonna start raining soon.
Trust me, when I was in Iraq from September to October, deep water.
Oh yeah, because you guys got the Euphrates River and everything. Euphrates Tigers down there and everything. Yeah. But
I got this little home construction job I'm doing. I gotta finish before it gets dark. Hey, Sando, do me a favor before I leave. Can you put your email in the background from your boss?
Hold on, one second.
Thank you. And sorry, AB, to cut you off, man, but let me get up out of here, man. Y'all go ahead.
I'll do even better. Yo, Charles, could you bless him with my number?
Text me, then
put it. I got it. I got it.
Put my number in the back chat for Jay Sean. Man.
Put it in the back chat.
What you do, Jay Sean, is you hit me up, right, and then I'll call you.
Okay.
Yeah, hit me up. Yeah.
Make sure you call Jay Sean. I like to be on there because there's some stuff I like to talk behind the scenes.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't know that I talk to like Sanddog a lot frequently than he's on these channels because he's a busy man and a family man. And it's always a pleasure, Jay Sean. Don't be a stranger,
Yeah.
As people don't.
Hey, Sanddog. Sanddog. Make sure it's the one. This is the correct one I put in the back chat for him. That's the area code and everything I got for you, fam.
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's area code and everything right there for you.
Hey, Sanddog, I just want to warn you, though. I just want to warn you publicly. I'm a bougie nigga, so.
We know you bougie little motherfucker. I mean, Brooklyn niggas be bougie as fuck.
All right, I'm holla at y'all
later. Is Qatar a bougie state in the first place? God damn.
Yeah, my bad, AB. I'm gonna holla at y'all later.
Yeah, Sanddog will be back in a minute. Shit happens sometimes with connections.
But
AB, what's good?
I'm demonetized. I don't get the super chat anymore. So if you want to support me, it has to be through your Cash App or PayPal, preferably Cash App. If you want to know what the Cash App is in the ticker. If you don't see the Cash App, I'll type it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's funny. In AB and Namer and Sanddog about witness. How many times do you get conversations like this with a person who's experiencing these types of things, speaking so openly?
Not enough.
Yeah. Well, not in our community, especially, right? Because again, these things are not valued, due to incompetence. Because like again, shout out to the GI Bill and all those things and everything else, right? But at the age of 24, I took 30 plus men to war at the, and I was a scout platoon leader, right? M3A3 Bradley, right? And I took men between the ages of 18 and 36, right? So I had a tank platoon, which is 15 men under me, scout platoon, 30 plus men under me. I was a support platoon leader, so I had 65 soldiers underneath me. Then I was a headquarters troop XO, and I was second in command of 227 plus attachments. Then I would go on and work for CENTCOM, Land Component Command, in the Middle East, where I was, staff oversight for all the logistics in the region. So that would be everything coming from the States, uh, into the 831st Sustainment Command, U.S. Transcom. So I was looking at everything from the Horn of Africa all the way out to the Asian Pacific, which is involved Pakistan. And so nowhere in Black America, or no institution in Black America, are you going to obtain these types of leadership skills, and nor will you have your hand on the button in terms of how society and the world works. So, you could, I get it, in terms of you're not seeing a quote unquote what you believe to be a material benefit, but there are many benefits that could be gained through this expertise and through this knowledge. And so, one of the things where Black America fails itself is that it fails to understand that Black is not a it is not a belief system or a value system. Black is a designation. So this is where the problem is. So when you go into diplomacy and things like that, when you talk about your identity or what you stand for as a group or a state, Black America doesn't have that, which is why when it comes to elections, you get ran through, right? Because you don't have any real business interest. So if you don't have business interests, you also don't have political interests. And so it's not that the Democratic Party has failed Black people in a sense, and I'm saying this as a Republican. It's just that Black people have failed Black people because as of yet, we don't have a real established business interest. We deal off the politics of the social and a desire for acceptance, right? So this is where you end up kind of in the quagmire that you're in, or becoming a political football, because truth be told, you don't have, from what Sandog has observed, you don't have your own interests, right? And you would deal with either side of the aisle based upon what your interests are. And this is how you would lobby, and this is how you would navigate the political spectrum, right? You guys have heard me mention this a lot. Like earlier, you guys are talking about Israel and the Middle East. And so when we get into this war, what happens in the war on terror? The war on terror is all about information, man. Again, with the technology that we have, when you talk about big data and algorithms. So in reconnaissance, we will have something called a named area of interest. So this is where I will go as a scout to go see if the commander's assumptions about that area is true or false, right? If it's true, it becomes a confirmed area of interest, right? And then you go and do what you got to do. If not, again, you kind of move on, you report, and you monitor the situation. And so what I'm getting at is that you're looking at warfare now, or even how you move now. Everything is about information, scale, and how you use that information. Remember, you guys heard me talk about soft power, which is your diplomacy. Hard power is your bullets and bang bang. And when you combine these things together, you end up with what's called smart power, right? So for Black America, as of now, because our culture is heavily influenced as of yet by your more intellectual class, by your sociologists, your philosophers, people who are in academia. Once you get into, let's say, the world of military or business, people in those fields have a mindset of they operate on what they can touch, taste, and feel, right? It's not necessarily kind of like the same things with theory and all of this stuff and everything else. So for Sandog, again, right now I'm in the world of logistics and trade, right? I operate on what I can touch, taste, and feel. I'm not saying that there's not a need for philosophy or sociology. All of these things come into play because they're used in the planning, right? So they're used in our planning, but uh, it's also somewhat of a, like I said, it's also somewhat of a different outlook. And so in Black America, these things have yet to become, let's say, a part of our value system, right? So the things in life that require discipline, that require rigor, that would influence change, that's not necessarily in our value system. So we like the symbolism of things, right? So the symbolism of change, or like, hey, today so and so gave a speech, to America, and he told them, somebody finally told America the truth. And what the fuck ever, dude, because at the end of the day, when you have power, you can determine what the truth is, right? With power. And so you have to understand that in today's world, both your physical battlefield, your business world, and politics, it is all asymmetrical, right? And asymmetrical, I would say, I guess, guerrilla warfare, if that's the case, it's all asymmetrical. So this whole idea of wherever I stand is the right side of history is not necessarily the case. This environment is fluid. It is constantly changing, and you have to look at the algorithms. You have to look at the money and actually see what people stand for, what they believe, and if it's consistent with what you believe. So I would tell anybody, right, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, if you're looking at a particular party or a particular candidate, what I would tell you is to do what Jesus said, which is, if you see where a man spends his money, you see what he values. So if Sandal gets up and I run for office and you dig some digging and you find out that the military industrial complex and the banking system and oil and gas are heavy contributors to my campaign, then you already know which way I'm going to lean, right?
Yep.
So you already know which way I'm going to lean. So you stop looking at it in terms of, there's this line of black and white and all these things, right? So the good old days of the Civil War, where we had the little drummer boys and stuff like that, and I'm dressed in blue on this side, or you're dressed in gray on that side. Those things are over with, man. And so you have to have knowledge. You have to look at data. You have to look at trends, and then you have to make decisions. But where black people are lost, back to what my first point is that black is a designation, not a value system. You know what I'm saying? So that's it. That's all Sandog got to say.
Whoa, that was a lot, but it was always great.
I'm sorry, fam. I didn't mean to talk
Hey,
over.
hey, hey! I ain't seen one complain in this motherfucking place.
Neither am I.
They will love it. What you got to say about that, AB?
He's right. You got to look. You got to look and see what who's paying these people, and you'll get an idea of what kind of policy you're going to get. You also have to listen to what they say. A lot of black folk are complaining about the immigrants in their cities now, but you should have listened what Biden told your so-called civil rights leaders, that you're going to have to talk to Latinas now. What you thought he was? What you thought he was lying?
No.
But
It's
that's
interesting you mentioned, excuse
yeah.
me, just a moment. Sorry, fam. Assalamu alaikum, by the way.
With salam. Yeah, but that's the
Yeah, it's
thing,
been a
right?
while, man.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so that's the thing. Look, remember when I came to the space, I didn't try to convert anybody to what I believed, right?
Right.
Never. You guys have
No?
been in enough panels with me. But I told you to listen carefully, right? Remember, if you go back to your seven, what is it? The original seven liberal arts, rhetoric is one of them. And I remember Trump's first State of the Union address. He said, what do they call immigrant kids? Dreamers, right? And
Hmm.
Trump said, and that's fine. And I have nothing against that. But you know what Trump went on to say? He said, but you know what? American kids have dreams too,
Yes.
right? Pause, right? Stop right there, right?
Hmm.
Because again, for black people, one of your main failings in life or in general in terms of how we operate is that when you're in the world of business or if you're in the battlefield, you're going to have to deal with people that you don't necessarily like. Yep. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna be you're not gonna be buddy buddy with everybody and everything in life. So at the end of the day, right, what these entities, business, nations, these institutions, right, they don't have friends, they have interests, right?
Mhm.
And so you're friends as long as your interests align. When Sandor was a boy, the Taliban were freedom fighters. I remember they came to the White House, they took pictures with Ronald Reagan, and fast forward some 20 years
Mujahideen.
later, I'm fighting them, right? So this is what I'm trying to say. So as long as your interests align, and so you have to let go of this kind of female mindset of I have to like you in order to work with you, right? So
Exactly.
point, at that point, when Donald Trump said what he said, especially as an African American, you now have a common interest with Trump because at the end of the day, dummy, you are American. So if Trump is putting an end to the visas and all of that stuff for the tech sector and all of this stuff and everything else, right? Then hey, he is pressuring those companies to give either you or your kids that qualify jobs instead of undercutting them with a labor force coming from some faraway land, right?
Yep.
So you have to be able to listen and process things based upon policy and based upon what people are trying to say, right? So, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
this is,
Let me finish.
yeah.
Sandor, I don't mean to cut you off, but to that point though, Trump says a lot of real shit that black people miss, especially on Twitter. He said some of the realest shit ever. He said black people have a long history, and if they're not careful, they're going to repeat their history. Trump
He
says a
said
lot
that.
of stuff that people miss. Yes, he said that.
Wow.
He said Trump says a lot of stuff people miss, man. And that's one of the reasons why I supported him in 2020. I didn't support him in 2016 because I'm still on that vote blue no matter who bullshit. But that's one of the reasons I voted for him because I actually listened to him and read what he was talking about.
Yeah. So, like I said, at the end of the day, it's all about what is important to you, right? And so, because I remember, and shout out to Mike V, man, I would love the chance to talk to him. And I remember Mike V had a live stream and he was spitting some fire about the Carter administration and some of the policies that they passed. But the problem is that when Jimmy Carter was president, my parents were young adults. My grandparents were probably, well into their adult years, maybe middle aged or just about. And I guarantee you, if I could talk to Mike V, everything you just mentioned about Jimmy Carter, I guarantee you that's not the reason why my parents or my grandparents or my great grandparents who were still alive during that time voted for him, right? They voted for him because he said some nice things that may have made them feel good about themselves. And so, what you're going to have to start again. And so, the problem comes back to what I said from the beginning, right? Once you go into integration and once you kind of kill off the black business class, black America, what are your business interests? What do you want? Because remember, a lot of those dudes that were getting lynched in the South were what? They were
Businessmen.
businessmen. They were businessmen and soldiers who wanted their GI Bill. Those were the guys that were being lynched. So this is what I'm trying to say. So now that you're taking a form of leadership or gravitating to a form of leadership that is more academic or philosophical in nature, what are your business interests? Because if you look at Frederick Douglass, right? Frederick Douglass did a lot of great things to help us get out of slavery, but he didn't really have anything for us after slavery, right? Which becomes a problem, right? So what happens is it's one thing, like, so it, remember, even for soldiers, that's what happens to us, right? So it's one thing when you're something during the war, but then
Mhm.
after the war, when that thing is not needed, you have to transition. So for a lot of us soldiers, right, or warriors, we are either in the business of war or we are in the war of business, right? If we are,
Hmm.
if we're smart enough, right? So
Right.
it's like I said, I am open to all sides. It's just about what do you want. And so, because that was one of the things, like when I came on Gigi's channel, when we talk about coons and all this stuff and everything else, and I'm like, fam, we signed up for integration. How are people supposed to think when you send your son and daughter to Robert E. Lee High School, right?
Yeah.
If that experience doesn't break them, right, how do you think they're gonna think when they come out at the end of it, right?
Right.
And
And the
so,
name of the school says it all.
and then, yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So black people are some of the most paradoxical fucking thinkers that I have ever seen, that I've ever seen in my life. Because at the end of the day, your skin color is not a value system, right? So again, you would have to sit down and you would have to create a value system. You can sell out the Nation of Islam. You can sell out the Black Panthers. You can sell out the United Negro Improvement Association. But black in general, how do you sell that out? So, for example, when you look at Clarence Thomas, right? Black America beat up Clarence Thomas about affirmative action. But here's what's funny, right? Again, Black America at times creates its own enemies, right? Because here's the thing, if
Pretty
you're
much.
Clarence Thomas, the same thing white people are saying about you, black people are saying the same thing, right? Oh, you just an ass kisser. You nothing but a bootlicker, this, that, and the third. So Clarence Thomas is probably saying, you know what?
Fuck
I'm going to
it.
blow this thing up. And the next time there's a Clarence Thomas, neither white people nor black people could say that he's affirmative action, nor can black people call him a bootlicker or a sellout, and that he's somebody that's made it on his own merit. To
Right.
include the fact, like, and I'll say this and I'll shut up, to include the fact that you have to understand this. How long would you expect civil rights legislation to last or hold up anyway? Especially when it's something that they have to renew again like I said, every so often. Because remember, with with integration, you left your own institutions. And I'll say this, and I promise you I'm going to shut the fuck up, right? So what happens is that things like joining the military and all of that other stuff, right? You might not see it as a benefit, but guess what? If the military was 80% black, guess what? You would have a lot of fucking sway for damn sure in the beginning of business and political interest, right? And I'll say, and so you have to learn how you have to learn how to fucking compete. How did Major League Baseball get integrated? Not through altruism, right? It got integrated because the Negro League Baseball was becoming more popular. How did college football get integrated, right? Bear Bryant got his ass beat by USC, and what did he say? He said, "I'll never be out niggered again." Right? So what happens is we're going to have to do things. The smart path is we're going to have to do things like join the military, civil service, and all of those things, and make those transitions to get ourselves to become competitive, right? And then you go out into that market and you out nigger them. That's how you fucking win, right? Because again, your freedom is not going to be handed to you. It's something that you're going to have to get up and take. So with that,
Right.
I'll shut the fuck up, right? And I'll pass the mic.
Yeah, real quick. You mentioned how we abandoned our businesses. When I back in my old church, I was researching our church history, and I found out back in the day, back in the 1930s and 40s, they had their own paper. I was like, wait a minute, what happened?
Fam,
We
we had our own bus line. There
we
was
had
no need. There was no need for the Montgomery
ice was
boycott.
colder.
We had our own buses.
Yep. We had our own cruise lines, and this was during Marcus Garvey Day. I mean,
Right.
what happened to simplify it? The white man's ice was colder. But continue the conversation. I'm loving it.
Yeah, and that's why I be looking at black people crazy. Like we used to have businesses, but y'all so busy trying to please. Like you said, the white man's ice is colder. I'm like, no, it's not always colder. You just choose not to shop with black people.
People thought they could uplift themselves beyond the race and whatnot in this way or that way or whatnot. I'm like, you forgot this was also the price you have to pay for integration, which means you want to be integrated, you have to be integrated completely. So that means you have to give up what you had and take what they gave you. But there was something about that integration people forget. What they give you in one hand, they'll take something with the other. That's why y'all got to keep fighting for what you want, man.
Yeah, you're gonna
I
end up like
mean,
in Chicago complaining about immigrants taking up their parks and stuff.
yeah, and the fucked up part about that is, like BGS mentioned, the residents are complaining, but the mayors are not because what comes with those immigrants?
Money.
Federal money. Because if they're coming, that also means federal money is coming into your city. And a lot of people don't see, and a lot of people who are not that politically savvy or politically aware just see what they see with their own eyes because they're so caught up in what they see in front of them. They're not understanding things, what's going on the grand scheme. Not that many people are that politically aware, despite the fact that you got to be politically aware now. People have not been politically aware since what? Since the late 90s, early 90s?
Pretty much.
And I'm on the outside looking in when I say this shit, folks. I mean, find the line what I'm saying, as Snowman would say.
No, black
I
people
mean,
aren't fully well. That's why they keep supporting the Democrat Party that's running the rainbow flag everywhere now.
But see, that's why you got to realize it is this. People, this is the importance of why you have a space like this. It's not just to talk about gynocracy, it's talking about black male empowerment.
Yes.
Because, one, if black men don't have a doctrine to effectively go to war, what good are you? You're just fighting for just not. And when you don't have the wherewithal to know where you're going and how you're going to get there, and right now you can talk to Sand Dog about basically what happens if you don't have your logistics right. And politically, that's the thing that keeps black men behind. Not the will how, not the know how, it's the logistics. Once you start talking logistics, black men get duh, duh, duh.
you get
And
overwhelmed because here's the thing. I think it's like this. It's like not to bring in a certain young cat we had, a young Thunder cat we had among us. Even though he's 19 years old, I've said this before about him,
what
and
now?
this is not a knock on him. This is not a knock on him. It's
Make
it's
sure
the
you hold
mindset.
on. Make sure y'all hit the like button. And make sure y'all hit the Cash App. It's a Charles Faulkner tax in effect. AB, Sandog, and name a tax. Come on now.
Yeah, thank you. The thing is like some people want to do the work, but they want the shortcuts. Because even among our generation, how many guys? A lot of guys think life is like a video game. Like there's a reset button. Also, there's like some kind of secret cheat codes. Certain people, it's not like Call of Duty or Battlefield, folks. You can't pay to win. There is no loot crates that can that or microtransactions that can hook you up with some things that can get you one step ahead like that. I mean, there are some people who can do that, but for the vast majority of us, no. You got to plan. You got to know the ins and outs of everything. And some people they get so overwhelmed, they end up like deers in the headlights. That's why everyone's. Oh, excuse me. That's why everybody is trying to look for cheat codes as if this shit was like a video game. I'm like, there's no cheat codes. You can try to cut some corners here and there. You can try to game the system all you want, but and try to get ahead like everyone else, but you still got to put in the work.
Hmm.
I mean, look at mixed martial arts. You always mention GSP, Charles. He was a master strategist.
Well, you got to remember,
Game
Namer,
plan.
this is this is black men's greatest weakness, is that black men suffer from a paralysis of analysis. They're so worried about
Ah,
they're so and that's what GSP was famous for doing to his opponents. He gave them a paralysis of analysis. Black men are so frustrated about figuring out what to do than actually doing it. Would you
mm,
all agree? Because one, to take action means you got to be responsible. You got to be 10 toes down. And you got to
Hmm.
dig. It's like when I wrestle, there's no such thing as
if you're gonna take a guy down, you can't half-ass it. You got to dig deep and you got to go all the way. And that's the point where a lot of young men get when it comes to political aspirations or power. You have a paralysis of analysis because you're getting so much information and you're being bombarded so much so that you can't even put your finger on something because the
Yeah, you
culture
gotta
has
pick
taught
something.
you to listen to either mama or listen to people who discourage you.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, mama's always worried that you're gonna get hurt. She doesn't want her baby to get hurt, but unfortunately, there's no daddy there to go like, let him be a man. He
Which
gotta
is
learn.
which is why I don't even go to my aunts who are still living about shit because I'll never get anything done.
You got to
Indeed.
think.
I don't even talk to them. I just if I want to do something, I want to do it.
You got to think about it, fellas. He who dares wins. That's the SAS motto. Oh yeah,
What is it that says fortune favors the bold?
I gotta hang up a bunch of these damn things here, folks. Gotta hang up all my shit. You know,
God, don't you have an office?
well, I got I got my chips bag right there, but I got a lot of plaques I gotta hang up. So
Yeah, but don't you have an office where you
Okay.
can hang all that up?
no, I don't
A
have a.
desk and everything? Oh,
I
you
got
gotta
a
get one, man.
shit. That's called getting another house, nigga.
Or can
I,
you convert a room? Do you have like a spare room you could convert it to an office or something like that?
prob- I probably can, but eventually it'll have to.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny because
Paralysis of analysis. Right
it's
there, folks.
it's funny. Uh, no, it's not analysis. I know what the fuck I'm doing. It's like even here, like
Yeah, sometimes you just got to get up and do it.
you just got to get up and do it.
Yeah. There's some shit I gotta get up and do it myself.
And when you don't
I get
understand,
it. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but sometimes if you fail at it, try it again.
and I'm
Like
gonna
Bruce, like Robert the Bruce.
a
At
lot of,
first you can't succeed, try again.
and that's the beauty of your life. Give me one more day. That's all I
Mm-hmm.
ask. One more day, because
All we on once.
a lot
One
of
more day to do something just to try it again. Because either, but it's like somebody said, there is no failure. Either I succeed or I'm gonna learn.
yeah, my man Doctor Doom said it best. I only have setbacks,
Yep.
You gotta love comic books. Excuse me.
and when you really think about it, is that this channel, I don't care if I have 20, 40, 400 people listening. I've actually made it to the height where I've equaled much larger channels who are 10 times my channel, if not 100 times my channel, and
Hmm.
equal or surpass them with live viewers. I've been to the mountaintop, even if just one time, maybe two, to have 500 or 800 people listening to me. It's all good because hell, I can deal with 21 people listening.
Yep.
21 people who count.
Yeah.
You do think because that's the thing about people always talk about the silent majority, but I remember was it Richard Martin that BJ would sometimes reintroduce us to. He talked about the real meaning of the silent majority. The silent majority are by their name silent and willing to go with anything. It's the few, the brave, and the bold who have to do so. And no, this is not a promo for the Marines, folks.
Hmm.
I'm saying this is. I'm saying it takes you. What was it? Somebody said I'd rather have 200, 200 men who are willing who are willing to risk life and limb to get the job done than 200,000 who are unwilling.
Yeah. I mean, you'd rather have 20 lions than 100 sheep any day of the week.
Oh
Yep.
yeah, 20 lines over 100 sheep.
So when you're looking at, and besides, you got people who are expertise in many things when it comes to AB media, when it comes to cybersecurity, web designing and computer. You got AB media. Hey, when you got about African history, and also cultural studies, you got Namer. When it comes to
Thank you.
control, when it comes to control and command, and also logistics, you have
Mhm.
Sandog. Me, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm an expert at.
Yeah, very
I'm gonna say
funny.
this though. I'm gonna say this one thing, especially considering Sandog's expertise in logistics and everything. What's that old saying? An army marches on its stomach.
hmm
If you gonna have a reg, unless you're dealing with like a militia or something like that who can just like live off the land or live off the support of the locals.
Then they need
When you're
logistics.
talking about, hmm?
Even then, it's logistics.
Yeah, even then it's logistics. You need to know how you're gonna supply your forces to do this, that to get the job done.
Hmm.
I mean, somebody once said, I mean, it's just like what's his name, Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men. Even though he didn't always say it, but you saw it in his actions. You want to get the job done, you're gonna need the right tools.
Right.
And how you supposed to do the shit? How you supposed to get shit done if you don't have the tools to do it?
Yeah.
If you don't
So
have the support to do it too?
you have
I
to
mean,
yeah, you got to evolve. So like like for logistics, right?
mhm,
I have my certification for through APICS for supply chain management,
mhm,
for procurement, for commercial contracts, for
mhm.
warehousing, right, and project management. And then shout out to AB Media. So AB, this winter I start my master's in AI and blockchain, and then
Oh,
from
man.
AI and
Congratulations.
from AI and blockchain, I'll do AI and machine learning, right? Shout out to Charles. And then from AI and machine learning, I'm gonna
Mhm.
jump
Okay,
into
what language you plan to work in?
so this is Python is what they
Okay,
have.
good.
So AI and machine learning, and then from AI and machine learning, my education ends. One is fintech, and then my education ends at Oxford University, the Blavatnik School of Government for Public Policy and Cybersecurity.
Okay, nice.
Oh yeah, by the
Wait a
way.
minute. Are you gonna use the Cecil Rhodes scholarship program? Because that would make you a Rhodes Scholar when you think about it.
What from a genocidal colonialist? Yeah, but the
I know the
I
irony
get
of it. The name of
uh,
it. The scholarship's
yeah,
named after Cecil
no,
Rhodes at Oxford.
I get where you're coming from, but AB, and I should not say this publicly because, Nameless and I had a conversation. What I want to do, AB, is um, if you can, my number is in the back chat, man. Add, add me on WhatsApp and let me know when you're free and I can call you because I have plans for this education and I think it's going to get me killed.
Oh boy.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh?
Hey,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey,
Speaking
by the
about
way, oh,
logistics.
does this look familiar?
Hold on a second. Let me see this. Oh, this is straight out of Iraq.
So
Company guard dogs.
if people wonder about my combat shit, it's gonna be on my wall. So I've been through
Shit.
more than most.
All
So
right.
Shit. I
and
remember my dad's like all about accommodations and certificates and whatnot for his shit. You got
and
me
So,
you
so
gotta
you
get me
just
nostalgic and start crying, don't you, Charles? You just gotta bring back all the good memories to me.
hey,
Charles,
God damn it.
better to
Charles,
bring
I'm
back
still on my phone.
bad
Can
ones.
you text, send out my number?
Let me get this. Let me get this through. Hold on, give me 1 second. Ah,
Yeah.
God damn it! Y'all asking me to multitask. You know my brain don't work that way. It's like,
Oh,
Shit.
Yeah.
you can do it,
Hey,
man.
Unless it's
you
grappling
can
or
look
boxing,
up.
he has some.
Yeah.
let me get
Huh?
it for you.
Hey, speaking of logistics, since we were talking earlier about, the whole shit and what happened, last week, over the weekend and shit, do you understand the logistical undertaking they needed for that? What happened in
For
Gaza and shit?
Yeah, so yeah, that just doesn't happen out of the blue. Look, when you're marshaling forces or you're deploying forces, you're going to go
Hmm.
through something called reception, stage, and onward integration.
Oh, can you
Okay,
say it one more time? Somebody be the scribe. I want you to say that one more time for the Negroes in the back.
Hmm.
this is called reception, staging, and onward integration. Right. So, so we when I was in, we called it RSOI, right, for you know what I'm saying, for the military, right? And this is the military process for converting the pile of puzzles, deploying pieces of equipment into their original form, and then making them combat ready, right? So so these guys just didn't fucking come out of nowhere, man. they they had to organize themselves. They had to organize the equipment. You know, they had to get so much shit ready. And for that type of movement, you guys are gonna see it, right? So remember in the Manosphere when you were back in the old Coliseum days, and you would have dudes say, "Yo, man, I was driving to work in Texas, and a damn train that took 30 minutes to cross had nothing but tanks on it," right? So if American soldiers remove Iraq or anything else, right? We have national training centers in America where soldiers train, right?
Mm-hmm.
One is in California, another one is in Louisiana, to my memory, right? So if you have soldiers going from Texas to California, right, a whole brigade, you're gonna see you're gonna see those trains or Humvees, tanks, or whatever the hell they have going from A to B, right? So you're gonna see some type of movement, right? And remember, right, Palestinians, what manufacturing base do Palestinians have? None. So where are their weapons coming from? Right? So there's some type of movement. You're not gonna, this isn't just gonna just damn randomly happen, right? So these forces went through the process of reception, staging, and onward integration, right? So when we went to war, you know, shout out to that. So Sandog was supposed to make history, right? The 4th Infantry Division was actually supposed to go in through Turkey for Operation Iraqi Freedom 1. Turkey denied us, and we ended up going into Kuwait, right? So guess what? I had to take my Bradley, tie it to a train. That train went to Beaumont, Texas. From Beaumont, Texas, it was on a seaport. And then from a seaport, it sailed to Ashwaba, Kuwait, right? Then from Ashwaba, Kuwait, it went through the process, got put on trucks and everything else. I received it. And then what did I have to do? I spent like a week or two, me and my platoon, getting our equipment combat ready to do what? Go into Iraq. So you just don't you
You just
just don't.
don't jump, guy.
Yeah, you just don't, like I said, you just don't pop up. So even for the 18th Airborne Corps, what they say, 24 hours or less, Charles, or 18
Yep,
hours or less.
about
So
15 hours
even
anywhere in the
even
world.
for them, they get raised up. It's just that their bags are already packed. That will be
Yeah,
the difference
that's the
between.
only difference because when
That's
you
the only difference, because
even
Sandor
even
comes from the
then
heavy.
you
I
still
come
have
from
to
the
do
heavy ward.
preparation. You have to get your shots. You have to get your combat readiness. You have to train people. Do you know how much the army, and I'm not talking about, and I'm not shitting on any other um, military branch. Do you know how much the army alone spent on urban combat, especially all the shit that y'all learned from OIF fucking 1 and 2? And I
Uh-huh.
was OIF 2. So you got to remember a lot of shit that y'all go into preparation. People forget you got to go into preparation just to mold.
Correct.
And as far as what happened was going, what that shit was going on, you knew they were surveilling them. They were doing trainings out in the open or in private under surveillance, but they had to disguise their training in a sense because they didn't want anybody to know what they were doing. And when the shit happened, especially the parasailing, when they had people parasailing across over the fences and shit, you're like, where the hell did that come from? Where did they get the equipment for that? The parasails and everything. That they had to get that smuggled. That had to be smuggled one way or another, and they knew how to do what they had to do. They had help doing that.
Most definitely.
Whether we're talking about the firepower they needed to do it, whether it was the rockets, the arms, the arms they needed for their units, the body armor, because remember a lot of those guys had body armor on. The parasail, the motorized parasails and everything. a lot of that they had to also improvise certain things, and they had to and you know those types of logistics, especially for a huge sucker punch like they did on this one. It took them a lot of time to do for preparations and whatnot. But they were also watching what was going on over on this side of this is the best time to strike while the country's divided. Everybody's too caught up in this BS, and it's a holiday. Good time to strike. And of course, it was the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War of '73. Yeah. Can y'all hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we're listening.
Okay. Yeah. Sometimes when you guys get too quiet, I think, oh, I must have gone out or something. But it's just that logistics is important for everything, no matter what you do. Logistics. I mean, some people, when they have certain supplies, they can stretch that out depending on what type of, warfare they're engaging in. I mean, like take the folks who are engaged in asymmetrical warfare. They have to learn how to go without in certain situations, or make whatever supplies they have stretch for long periods of time. And the tactics they use may require them to require light armored weapons, light arms, light equipment, so they can be, more maneuverable. If you're a conventional army, especially if you're going to be doing some heavy duty shit, you need certain equipment. Depends on the battlefield and the warfare tactics you need. You're going to need the right tools and the right supplies for that shit. And Sandman can tell you, like, logistics is everything.
Not just that, the right transportation.
Huh?
I mean, you got to
What?
think the right transportation. It's
Yeah.
kind of funny, Sam. I went from December 3rd, 2003 to March 15, 2005. That's when I was in Iraq.
Yeah. Not to mention, let's not forget, Charles, when y'all were there, and also the brothers who also served in Afghanistan, they had to use low tech shit just to combat the high tech shit that y'all had.
And shit,
I
we
mean,
weren't that.
they improvised like a motherfucker. I mean, those IEDs were no fucking joke. I'm not saying that to be disrespectful. I'm just saying they had to improvise, and they did what they had to do. I don't agree with it, but I understand why they did it.
I mean,
And
you
some of
got
the
to
other
think
Texas
when I
had to
was
use. Go ahead.
over in
Go ahead.
Iraq, we didn't even have
Mm-hmm.
vehicle armor on our Humvees. We had to weld steel to the bottom of our shit and put sandbags over top.
Shit.
So there's a lot of improvisation that the American soldiers had to make that a lot of people did not.
Shit. I'm sure the Brits didn't have that kind of problem.
I
Or I'm
mean,
thinking the wrong different year.
that was a big thing, man.
Mm-hmm.
Satellite imagery can capture movements of large resources. I think they did it little by little. It's either two things. They either did it as a one big gulp or they were moving shit little by little to the point it just overwhelmed them.
No, but I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, right? They're dealing with asymmetrical warfare, man. They have they have the resources to know what that looks like, man. They're probably better at identifying that stuff, Charles, than we are, to be honest with you. Right?
That's
Mm-hmm.
what I say.
But,
I agree
but
with
between Israel and the British, they're probably much because I would say going into Iraq, America is untouchable when it comes to conventional warfare.
you. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I said, untouchable. But when you talk about guerrilla or asymmetrical warfare, man, again,
Or
I would definitely
conventional
give,
warfare or
yeah,
urban combat. Mm.
I
yeah.
mean, I'll give you an example, Sam, man. What would you say if I told you that with the conflict in Yemen, especially in the northern half of the country, in order to prepare to better train themselves for that shit, do you know that the Saudis and their allies were allowed to have training camps in Eritrea because
Mm-hmm.
they had to learn how to fight in high elevation. Because
Correct.
the southwestern part of Saudi Arabia, northwestern part of Yemen, that is mountainous region. The Asir region is in place like that, in areas like that, crossing over into That's a mountainous region. The only people who know about for that kind of combat are Ethiopians and Eritreans because we fought in that kind of work and that use that for type
Yeah,
of warfare.
yeah,
And in that kind of environment, you need small groups, light groups, ambushing, encirclement. I mean, this kind of conflict that's going on in Ethiopia is that kind of warfare you see with some of the
I'm
rebel groups, asymmetrical
yeah.
warfare and shit.
Well,
But go ahead.
Afghanistan also, because I'll tell you
Oh
this.
yeah, Tora Bora.
I'll never forget, man. There was a special forces guy, because I saw him in Afghanistan, and we were sitting down talking, and he had
Mm-hmm.
just came back from a convoy, and they
Uh-huh.
were ambushed on that convoy, and I'll never forget. I was sitting with them, and my man wasn't mad or nothing. He was like, Sando, that was the most beautifully executed ambush I ever seen. He said basically, because at that time the Army manual for light infantry was the FM 7-8, right? I don't know what it is now.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, he, he was like, it was as if he said it was as if that ambush came right out of the pages of the manual. He said it was so perfect. He said because we have something called OCs when you're training. It's like referees,
Uh-huh.
observer controllers, right? And so
Yes.
the observer controller will tell you what you did good, what you did bad, again, kind of like watching a tape if you were playing sports, so to speak. And he said
Yep.
if this was NTC and I was an observer controller, he said I would have no complaints. He said that shit was fucking flawless.
Mm.
It was flawless. Let's not forget
He
how
said,
determined those people are.
yeah,
And also, Sandman, let's not forget some of the manuals you guys have, the manuals you guys is used for training and shit. Those guys have probably gotten a hold of those. I've gotten a hold of those copies online or somehow other way, translated them, and learned how your playbooks and learned how to for best attack you guys. Oh, CMC was right about what's going on in Chechnya.
yeah. Shout out to Sam,
Chechnya, same thing.
other brother Nebula. I think I missed them both coming up. Yeah, but, shout out to them both, man. Peace, peace.
Yeah, Chechens, you're right, CMC. It wasn't just Chechens. Don't forget, that shit also spilled over into Dagestan and Ingushetia, which are neighboring republics in the Russian Caucasus, and also the combat that was going on in places like Armenia and Azerbaijan and whatnot. Like what happened recently in the Gorno Karabakh. Because before, like the Azerbaijanis or Azeris, are also called, who are ethnically related to the Turks, with their oil wealth, they were able to acquire the mass logistics and arms they needed, especially drone technology they got from the Turks. Man, those drones are not to fuck with.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying. But yeah, so it's not because remember today's battle. What I said, it's big data, man. This is algorithms. This is intelligence. This is
Hmm.
gathering, right? So, and on today, I mean, as always, right? But especially on a high tech battlefield, man, information is king, man. Information is king, and so
Hmm.
this is the era that we're living in, man. Trends, right? So even in the NFL, right? The NFL is using AI and big data to do what? Trends, man.
Yeah,
How to do this, how to do that.
analytics.
Yeah,
The
analytics,
analytics
man.
from, but the
Because
problem with the analytics is they don't. I mean, stats are everything. Stats isn't everything because the stats can only tell you so much. But at the same time, if you don't have tape and you're not studying the ins, the outs, and the quirks of what makes the opponent tick, you you can't just rely on stats. You got to understand every intricate detail about the other side. Information, that means you have to understand how they think, the mentality they have, and everything. That's why one advantage, like certain groups like the Chechens had over the Russians was this: most Chechens could speak Russian, and many of those Chechens had at one time or another served in the Soviet armed forces during the national service during the Soviet era days. Very few Russians, because of how vast the nation is, very few Russians who are also from other republics had little to no common ground with the Chechens, unless they were from nearby republics within the Caucasus. They don't know anything about Chechens. And not to mention those Caucasians and all the folks over there in the Caucasus, they're not just Caucasians. So you have Turkic, you have Iranian folks, like the Ossetians and everything. You have a group of people called the Kalmys, who are a subgroup of Mongolians. Most Russians know little or nothing about them, and they have derogatory terms for some of the folks in the Caucasus. So the ignorance and lack of knowledge of local culture and customs will get you into trouble, because in those regions, they don't have faith in institutions. They have faith in honor, because of how lawless and rugged the area is. It's hard to police and administer such places. And many of them are just honor-based cultures and whatnot, just like in the Arab world, or in parts like in Central Asia and whatnot. Lack of knowledge of the local customs, language, even religion could get you killed. And this is something I carry with me in my life, because anytime I interact with other people, especially like say I meet a Kurd, say I meet somebody and he's a Kurd. The first thing I'm going to say to him when he tells me he's Kurdish, I'll say, "Oh, really? What part of Kurdistan are you from?" The minute he tells me he's from this region, "Oh, so you're from this side, this side?" He's like, "What the hell do you know about Kurds?" I said, "I do my research." I've done the same thing with other immigrant groups. One of my dudes, he's Albanian, Kosovo Albanian. The minute I used the name of a historical person from Albania, he looked at me like that. That's when he opened up to me. You know what I'm saying? That type of knowledge, understanding other people, and then they start to intrigue. What are you? And if you look at my avatar, I've introduced images like this to them, so they knew, oh, that's what you come from. You know what I'm saying? That type of knowledge helps people. Anybody else got anything to say? I can't be talking to you by myself. I got a big mouth, but somebody's got to cut me off here, man. Somebody cut me off. Somebody cut me off.
Cut off. But no, so in regard to discussion, I'll go. I've said a lot of what I have to say, but again, you have to learn, right? So what happens is things like the military and business are things that allow Black men to engage in the real world, or get a taste of how the world works and the reality that you're living in, right? So again, like I'm not knocking it. I'm not beating, because you need these things. You need philosophy. You need sociology. You need these things, right? But at the end of the day, but like I said, but at the end of the day, right? A man who builds houses and a man who has a career teaching math, they see life completely different. A guy who's been, so like I said, the guy who's been teaching math, right? He understands building a house in theory, but the guy who's been building the house has actually spent his career applying that philosophy, right? And so you're by default, you're going to see the world, very, very different, right? So, so even in the space, right? We have to be careful about how we use terms like John Henryism and bootstrap, because at the end of the day, right? Basically, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps means that you were given opportunity and you made the best of that opportunity in order to convert yourself to where it was. So guess what? $10,000 has slapped my hands quite a few times in my lifetime. You know what I have not done with $10,000? I haven't done what Master P has, which was take $10,000 and turn it into a multi-million-dollar empire. That I have not done, right? So from a perspective, you could say Master P has, again, pulled himself up by his own bootstraps, because his grandmother leaves him 10 grand, and instead of that turning into a Benz, the floss in the hood, or a gold chain or something like that, he goes off to start No Limit Records, and God knows whatever other business interests that he has, right?
You forget something, Sam, man. I'm saying, dog. He talked about he spends like a couple stacks just to have a consultation from an attorney. and that attorney gave him the information he needed, in which No Limit Records was able to make 80 cents, was to earn like 80 cents on every dollar they made.
Yeah.
And he said like that was the best, like he said, that's the best 30 to 40,000 I ever spent. That was the best investment I made to get that information from that lawyer. I had to pay him for his time, which was right. He needed to be compensated for his time. And when he gave me all that the information I needed, I realized, okay, so this is what we're going to do. And when he was able, and that's how he was able to not only take care of himself, but so many people were able to take care of themselves, their royalties and everything. And a lot of them were able to take the money they earned and go into other things. Now, unfortunately, C Murder somebody free C Murder.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Another thing too. Even when we talk about John Henryism, and again, I'm not beating up terms. I'm talking about walking away from not walking away or dealing with extremism. Because at the end of the day, right, I see nothing wrong with imposing a culture of excellence on young black men, right? Because somebody needs to expect something from them, and they also need something to live for, right? So you got Charles Faulkner doing everything that he's doing, right? I'm doing what I'm doing, right? You have a lot of guys in the space who are doing great things, Herculean things, actually, right? As a matter of fact, part of the process of even becoming a man, one could even say many of us would have to compete or not compete, I'm sorry, complete what will be similar to the 12 labors of Hercules, right?
Yeah.
So, again, we have to be, so from Sandon's perspective, right? The reason why I don't, just my reason with the issues of the term is I do not nor shy away from the concept of demanding excellence from myself or other black men, right? When you look at think about it. If Kobe was here today to get on our panels, a lot of us would hate his guts because he would be saying things that people want to say are unrealistic, right? And Kobe is like, yo, I've done nothing more than simply apply myself, right? So again, right, for black men, do not run away from the concept of excellence, right? Because again, that's what Black Girl Magic is, right? It's the concept of excellence. And I don't hate Black Girl Magic, right? Shout out to black women for at least liking each other, right? So we need to demand excellence and we need to start liking each other, right? So again, so that's like I said, that's all I got, man. Charles, definitely, I'm gonna hit you up, in the back, man, and then I'll rap with you guys later.
Whew. I think we can't get better than this. Thank you all. Thank
I
you.
just got one thing to say though. Sandog,
Yeah.
you're right about black men need to go into the military and whatnot, but we cannot leave out the diplomatic corps either,
Yeah, that's what I'm
because
saying.
that's another part of warfare as
It's
well.
called correct. It's called the Foreign Service Officer, right? And you take a test for it, right? And so it has, and I'll say this and I'll shut up. It has several because remember, being the military deals with diplomacy, right? So these institutions are not separate. However, there are certain tracks. As a matter of fact, you could be a foreign service officer up until the age of fucking 99. And there's certain tracks. So one, you have a consular track, right? The consular track is when you want your passports, birth certificates, children born abroad. Then there's a management track of people who run the embassies and take care of it, the contracts, the building, the infrastructure. Then there's a political track, right? And the people who deal with the politics of where they are. And then there's also an economic track for it, right? Also. And then there's something called OSAC, which is the Overseas Security Advisory Commission. And the guy who runs OSAC is typically like a cop. He's like the embassy's top cop, so to speak. So yes, so you guys, I think 99 or 60 something, you guys could do the search. Correct me if I'm wrong, but for people who are interested in it, man, again, Go to the State Department, look it up, look up Foreign Service Officer, and you'll see the different tracks that I just mentioned to you. And then you study for the test for the track that you're interested in. You pass the test, and then God willing, you get an appointment. And for damn sure, you're going to get to see the world, right? So based upon it. So consular, management, political, economic. Those are the ones that I remember off my head, top of my head, if that's not all of them, right? So yeah, man, by all means, right? So you have to learn how the world works and engage in it. You know what I'm saying? So peace out, y'all.
Peace out, and thank you everybody who joined the
Peace out.
panel. Woo!
I can give an example, in fact,
And we
if
are
I
out.
may.
I'm about to close up.
Oh, never mind. All right, later. Stay safe. Oh, yeah.
Woo!